Your life could be worse. At least Nie Gen is mostly human. Sure, he is too big, too aggressive, and lasts entirely too long, but he is better than the monsters other system hosts had to endure. That's the truth. Comforting. You survived. Still, your inner thighs are burning. Painful. You spend 100 system points on a cooling salve. It helps immediately. Outside, Zhao Hu and Bai Quan are sitting at the table. You look around, blinking. Nie Gen is missing. Is Nie Gen not back yet? Zhao Hu grins widely. He's with the surveillance bureau, sister-in-law. Want a ride to the base later? You shake your head. No way. You need rest. The sun is blazing hot anyway. The afternoon heat suffocates the house. You don't use the air conditioner. Instead, you dump ice from your pocket dimension in front of a cooling fan. Heaven. You lie flat on a bamboo mat, watching movies. Right at that moment the door flies open. Nie Gen enters, bringing a wave of scorching heat. He wears a black tank top and camo pants. Sweat rolls down his bronze muscles. He looks incredibly hot. Literally. He frowns, staring at you. I'm running around outside, and you don't even miss me? You sit up, glaring straight at his lap. You broke your promise. I'm ignoring you. Our guy flushes. He feels guilty about last night. He sits close, his body heat radiating like a furnace. You can't handle it. You slide away, fetch him some cold watermelon milk jelly, and check his leg. Brother Nie Gen, show me your leg. He chokes on his drink, coughing hard. I'm fine. He pulls up his pant leg, revealing his silver prosthetic. Untouched, unharmed. Then, he drops a heavy bag into your lap. You open it. Red booklets stare back at you. The first is a property deed for Iron Sun Mountain. The owner's line reads, Nie Gen and Tang Yinyin. The duration is 1,000 years. Mind-blowing. The next is a housing certificate for the base. Finally, a marriage certificate. This marriage certificate is weird. No photos. Just their names, written in crooked, uneven handwriting. Nie Gen clearly wrote it himself. The paper feels strange, like expensive jade or fine animal scales. Smooth but dangerous. At the bottom, a cheesy slogan is scrawled, "My love for you, unchanging until death." You burst out laughing. Uncontrollable. Nie Gen beams with pride, scarfing down the watermelon jelly in 3 massive bites. He grabs a hand fan, waving it furiously. Your hair flies everywhere. Total chaos. Lunch is a massive feast cooked by Chen Niu. Braised fish, seaweed, mutton, and fried bean sprouts. You manage a few bites before stopping. Nie Gen eats like an elegant prince but at lightning speed. His stomach is a black hole. While eating, his eyes never leave you. He licks his lips. It feels like a predator watching its prey. Shiver-inducing. Later, you head to the survivor base. Captain Nie, Xiao Feiyu and Fu Xian greet you at the gates. Fu Xian looks at you with a complex expression. Sister Nie, word travels fast. Everyone knows Nie Gen dragged you to register this morning. Your face burns scarlet. Nie Gen acts completely natural. He plants a quick kiss on your lips and stuffs a thick wad of cash into your hands. Go home with Zhao Hu first. I'll get you tonight. The base is heavily fortified now, surrounded by thick steel mesh walls. Soldiers guard the entrance. Everything costs money. The new currency is called new yuan. 1 new yuan buys 2 buns. You ask System 21 to scan the cash. 10 bills. All 100s. 1,000 new yuan total. His entire salary handed straight to you. Zhao Hu leads you down the commercial street. He waves his hand proudly. This entire street belongs to the boss. You freeze. What did you say? The boss owns it. Which means you own it, sister-in-law. Before you can process the shock, he leads you to a 2-story house. Your second brother, Tang Nan, is sitting in the yard eating watermelon. Is this house Nie Gen's too? Of course, Zhao Hu says. Nie Gen traded his blood, military merit, and a leg for this. Your heart swells. Touched. The house has 8 rooms. Perfect for your family. They love it here. You ask about old acquaintances. Lu Lan is struggling hard, earning 8 new yuan a day while supporting 2 elderly relatives. Lodging costs 3 new yuan. Life is brutal. You tell Zhao Hu to find lighter jobs for her grandparents. Helping out feels right. By 7 p.m., the street is bustling. Kayanzai is shouting outside a shop, selling tia eggs, 1 yuan each. Next door, shops sell buns, milk, and fruit. Further down, things get weird. Seeds, water, livestock breeding services, mutated pets, weapons, and exorcism services. Absurd. In the center of the street sits a flashy flower shop. Hydrangeas and roses bloom everywhere. Colorful lights flash. You look at the sign. Gen loves Yin flower shop. You stare blankly at Zhao Hu. What is the name of this street? Same as the shop. Sister-in-law. Gen loves Yin street. Your face drops. It's ugly. Baekwon scratches his head. I'll tell the boss to change it back to his first choice. What was the first choice? Nie Gen only loves Yinyin flower shop. Never mind. The current name is fine. Great, even. You sit in the shop, checking your spiritual spring space. Unexpectedly thick, suffocating black mist is swirling over the water. A storm is coming. A bad omen. Your heart drops. Outside, Zhao Hu and Baekwon pace around anxiously. Clear the crowd. You yell at Zhao Hu. Get everyone to the shelters. You grab the wireless radio, barking warnings to Nie Gen and the military. The army moves fast, shouting at the citizens. 2 minutes later, the sky turns pitch black. Lightning rips through the dark clouds, but no rain falls. Instead, a monstrous tornado erupts in the distance, tearing up trees and debris, howling as it charges straight toward the base. Panic explodes. People scream, sprinting for the underground shelters. Would you like to proceed with a recap for the next chapter to see how Tang Yinyin deals with her newly evolved senses and Lu Chengyi's next move? Tang Yinyin waited anxiously near a steel shelter entrance, watching absolute chaos unfold. Inside her spiritual spring space, that terrifying black mist was still heavily condensing. The gale forces screamed, whipping her dress wildly. Dirt and massive debris spun directly into the sky. That violent tornado looked exactly like the cold, giant eye of a Dark Lord. In the face of literal death, Nie Gen was sprinting toward her. A cold sweat completely drenched her skin. Right at that moment, just as the automatic steel shelter doors began to slide shut, she slammed directly into a hard, blazing hot chest. Slam! The heavy iron doors sealed. Outside, the howling wind battered the metal like a chorus of screaming ghosts. Nie Gen spat out a mouthful of grit, his handsome face covered in gray ash. He crushed her into his arms, his large hand gently stroking her trembling back. Don't cry. Didn't I make it back? Tang Yinyin opened her mouth, instantly inhaling dirt. She coughed violently, gripping the fabric of the Grand Villain's shirt. I'm not crying. She wasn't. She was just terrified, sweat dripping down her face. Nie Gen sighed heavily. Fine. You aren't crying. I am. Tang Yinyin. Before she could speak, Nie Gen abruptly covered her ears with his massive palms. His expression turned deadly serious. A bright golden light flickered deep inside his H-letter-1-E-B-9-P eyes. It wasn't an illusion. Last night, his pupils had definitely changed. Muffled, agonized screams echoed from the outside world. Her heart sank. This brutal tornado was completely unexpected. The original power fantasy novel plot never mentioned a massive storm after the epidemic. Her advantage was gone. No way out. If her spiritual spring hadn't flashed a warning, and if the base military hadn't pre-dug these underground bunkers, thousands would be dead. But what about the survivors left in the city? She asked System 021 about the storm's radius. The system confirmed it was a global S-tier disaster. Deep helplessness washed over her. System 021 whispered, Don't worry, host. You still have one chance to change worlds. Tang Yinyin rejected it instantly. She was with Nie Gen now. She couldn't leave. 021, can I trade that world hop chance for a complete timeline of this world's future natural disasters? The system went quiet, processing the request. Meanwhile, 5 minutes after the tornado struck Lu family village, Lu Chengyi was suffering a massive, devastating loss. He was huddled deep inside his secondary basement. Above his head, the roaring wind was literally peeling the earth away, layer by layer. His scalp went entirely numb. This storm didn't happen in his past life. The early ending of the epidemic had already ruined his plans, but this was a catastrophe. He had just finalized a massive trade. Before he could store the supplies into his space storage, the wind hit. Space in the basement was strictly limited. He only allowed his parents, Yishiren, and a dozen loyal thugs into the secure lower level. Everyone else was jammed into the shallow upper basement. Big brother, what do we do? Lu Chengyi, will this basement hold? His thugs were panicking. Lu Chengyi's mind was a chaotic mess, but he forced himself to look stable. He triggered his metal-awakened abilities, desperately reinforcing the crumbling ceiling. Don't loop. The wind is dying down. My superpowers will protect you. Unexpectedly, the moment the words left his mouth, blood-curdling screams pierced the ceiling. Oh, big brother, save me. The walls of the first floor basement had completely collapsed. Absolute horror. The catastrophic tornado raged for 6 agonizing hours before finally tapering off. By the time the military cleared the alarms, it was the following afternoon. Usually, the sun would be blistering. Now, icy winds howled beneath a pitch-black sky. It looked like midnight. Tang Yinyin stepped out of the bunker, The bustling commercial street was totally ruined. Half of it was flattened into piles of shattered concrete and flying dust. She pulled 2 masks and safety goggles from her pack, forcing them onto Nie Gen. In this weather, opening your mouth meant swallowing a pound of sand. Nie Gen adjusted the black mask. His thick lashes were coated in gray dust. He squeezed her hand tightly. "Let's check our house. I'll kagi you." Tang Yinyin shook her head. His prosthetic leg wasn't fully healed. Carrying her would cause agonizing pain. But the grand villain ignored her. He dropped to one knee and hoisted her up anyway. Tang Yinyin floated into the air. She wrapped her arms around his neck, scanning the destruction from his back. Fortunately, the factory dorm survived. Soldiers were already registering survivors for emergency housing. Their 2-story house was still standing. The windows were shattered, and furniture was flipped, but the structure was safe. Zhao Hu, Qian Zai, and the rest of the crew emerged from a nearby bunker guarding Tang Yinyin's grandparents. Everyone was alive. Not a single person missing. Tang Yinyin slid off Nie Gen's back, a massive weight lifting from her chest. "Boss, sister-in-law," Zhao Hu muttered, his face caked in dirt. Bai Quan looked exhausted, a bloody scratch slicing across his cheek. Their bunker had cracked during the storm, letting in debris, but the injuries were minor. Father Tang stared toward the horizon. "I wonder how the village held up." Lu Lingyu sighed heavily. "I hope Aunt Han Mai's family found a safe place." In the north, tornadoes were unheard of. Traditional vegetable cellars weren't deep enough to withstand austere gales. If a house flew away, the cellar became a grave. "I'll drive over and check," Nie Gen said, his voice flat. "Zhao Hu, Chan Niu, come with me. The rest stay and clean the house." Father Tang waved his hands frantically. No, the house is tiny. We can handle a bit of sweeping." Though, seriously, leaving 20 heavily tattooed, terrifying men in the yard was a massive psychological strain. Grandpa Tang chuckled. "Young Nai, go look after your shops. Valuable stock is sitting in those ruins. Don't let looters take it." The non-human subordinates instantly looked at Nie Gen with puppy dog eyes. They wanted to save their merchandise. Nie Gen relented. "Fine. Casual deployment. Everyone move out." His rough thumb brushed a stray lock of hair from Tang Yinyin's forehead. "I'm checking the village. Stay here. Be good." "I'm coming with you," she insisted. Her spiritual spring could predict danger. Although the black mist had cleared, a dark gut feeling told her the disasters wouldn't stop here. Her family was safe inside a military base, but Nie Gen had a disability. If a crisis hit, he couldn't run fast. The grand villain stared at her with his bottomless black eyes. Finally, his voice rasped, "Okay." Lu Lingyu frowned at the danger, so Tang Yinyin pulled her mother into a private room. She handed over 2 bottles of health-strengthening pills. "Mom, these boost your immune system and physical strength. You and Dad take 1 every 5 days. My brothers every 10 days. Give Grandpa and Grandma half a pill." Lu Lingyu stared at the bottles. "Did Nie Gen give you these?" Tang Yinyin paused. "No, they're mine." Her mother sighed. "Stop lying to me. Where would you get stuff like this?" It was time for a partial confession. "Mom, remember our old house in town?" "Of course I do." Lu Lingyu snapped. "We worked for years to buy it, and it collapsed instantly. Before the apocalypse, when my head was messed up, I stole the deed and sold it to Lu Chenyi." "What?" Lu Lingyu's voice hit a high pitch. Tang Yinyin quickly explained how Nie Gen had saved her from Lu Chenyi's trap, and how she used the cash to hoard massive amounts of medical supplies and food. Lu Lingyu's anger evaporated. "Good riddance. The house would have collapsed anyway. At least we got supplies." She reached under the bed boards, unlocked a hidden box, and pulled out a stunning green jade Buddha pendant. "I saved up for years to buy this as a wedding gift for your future partner," Lu Lingyu whispered, her eyes softening. "In this era, a big wedding is impossible. Take it. Give it to him yourself." Tang Yinyin smiled brilliantly, clutching the jade. "Brother Nie Gen will love this." The grand villain acted tough, but he was incredibly insecure about his prosthetic leg. He constantly worried her family would look down on him. His inner monologue was basically a tragic romance novel. With this family heirloom, she could finally shoot down his ridiculous doubts. Lu Lingyu hesitated, then caught her daughter's arm. "Yinyin and Nie Gen's background is unusual. If you notice things about him that aren't quite human, don't be afraid." Tang Yinyin recalled his glowing gold eyes. She nodded calmly. "I know, Mom. The world was infested with raw contamination index anomalies. Nie Gen worked for the Containment Bureau. It was normal for his eyes to have minor mutations. No big deal." Seeing her daughter so unbothered, Lu Lingyu relaxed. They had lived together for so long. If Tang Yinyin was fine with it, the family wouldn't interfere. Who would have thought? The entire family knew Nie Gen wasn't human except for Tang Yinyin and herself. She tucked the jade away and walked out to the bikes. The motorcycles parked behind the commercial street were completely intact. The crew revved their engines, tearing down the cracked, boulder-strewn roads toward Lu Family Village. The sky remained pitch black. They needed to move fast. Single relevant follow-up question. Would you like to proceed with the next chapter to see what kind of destruction awaits them at the Lu Family Village, and how Lu Chengyi reacts to seeing Nie Gen alive? Tang Yinyin turned on her flashlight. The surrounding rice fields were completely overturned, decimated by the violent winds. Fortunately, the eastern part of the village had escaped the main path of the tornado. Uncle Ida Gu and Uncle Nhi Kao were completely safe. Only Lai had suffered minor scratches. He winced from the pain. Our area is fine. The west side of the village took the real hit. A lot of people died over there. The west side. That was where Lu Chengyi's faction was staying. Unbelievable. Had the male protagonist been struck down by the storm? Curious, Tang Yinyin and Nie Gen walked toward the west. From a distance, they spotted Lu Chengyi. His face was pitch black. He stood by the road, cornered by a furious, bloodied crowd. "Big brother, my brother is dead. You owe me an explanation." A muscular thug, drenched in blood, roared in his face. "Why did those elites get into the second-floor basement while my brother and I were left behind? Your parents and your girlfriend, fine. But what did Lu Xian ever do for us? We bled for this crew." "Exactly. You abandoned us this time. What about next time?" The other injured survivors surged forward, entirely unstable. The resentment toward Lu Chengyi's blatant favoritism was boiling over. Tang Yinyin listened quietly, asking System Number 21 for context. The system confirmed the truth. Brutal. During the tornado, Lu Chengyi had locked his family and top inner circle in the ultra-safe lower level, leaving his frontline workers in the hazardous upper basement. He lost 2 trucks of supplies and over 10 men. His authority was crumbling fast. She stared a second too long. Nie Gen's voice dripped with pure jealousy. "You care about him that much?" Tang Yinyin retracted her gaze instantly. "No." Our guy gritted his teeth, letting out a freezing snort. The surrounding air pressure dropped dangerously low. She submissively let him pull her against his chest as the motorcycle engine roared, racing back to their mountain home. Luckily, their house was intact. Unluckily, most of their chickens, ducks, and geese had vanished into the wind. Tang Yinyin searched the yard, slightly heartbroken. Dai Bai is gone. They had 2 dogs, Xiao Hui and Dai Bai. The white dog Nie Gen brought home later. Only Xiao Hui remained. Nie Gen laughed softly at her panic. "Xiao Bai is at the base. I had Zhao Sanbao take him there yesterday." Zhao Hu grinned. "Yeah, Xiao Bai is behind the commercial street. He's incredibly strong." "Don't worry, sister-in-law." Suspicious. Tang Yinyin distinctly remembered seeing Dai Bai right before they left. Zhao Sanbao rode a motorcycle to town. Did he really drive a bike while carrying a massive white dog? She knew the grand villain was lying, but she had zero proof. Since the dog was safe at the base, she let it drop. She filled a basin with clean well water. "Brother Nie Gen, go wash up first." She pulled out a salve from her pocket dimension. Before she could check his prosthetic leg for injuries, System 021 chimed in her ear. "Yinyin, the timeline trade mission is approved. Review it immediately." Without waiting for her consent, blue text flashed across her vision. A-tier world mission. Yihuan, the most famous psychiatrist in the Black Tower, is dead. Investigate the truth behind his murder. Success reward. Disaster timeline for your current S-tier world. Tentative failure penalty. Deduct 5,000 system points. Special condition. The host and the closest living entity must enter together. Accept. Countdown. 5, 4. The countdown was incredibly aggressive. No time to think. She grabbed Nie Gen's muscular forearm. "I accept." Instantly, a blinding white light erupted beneath their feet. Time and space warped violently. Dizziness hit her. Through the blurring light, she saw Nie Gen leap in front of her. His golden eyes blazed with feral alertness. A pair of sharp, silver-white triangular animal ears shot up from his head, twitching in high-alert defense. Tang Yinyin. Before she could process the sight, her vision went completely black. She lost consciousness. Number 177. Number 177. Loud, mechanical voices pierced the fog in her brain. The dizziness slowly receded. Tang Yinyin realized she was strapped to a sterile white medical chair. The walls were solid, metallic silver. Overhead surgical lights blinded her. She squeezed her eyes shut. Number 177. "What are you doing?" Something icy clamped onto her arm, pulling hard. Ouch! Sharp pain. She snapped her eyes open to find a humanoid robot gripping her skin. A few feet away, Behind a thick glass observation window, a female doctor in full protective gear stared at her impatiently. Her ID badge read, Mental Aberration Prevention Department, Lin's Eye, number 177. The brown-haired doctor called again. Tang Yinyin finally realized the number belonged to her. Dr. Lin, I'm here. Lin's Eye's tone softened slightly at her lucid response. The exam is starting. Sit still. Don't move. Tang Yinyin had no idea what this test was. She reached out to System Go 21, but a completely unfamiliar, robotic voice replied. Hello, host. I am Support System 033 for this mission world. I apologize, but your question exceeds my current clearance level. She blanked. Before she could interrogate the new system, the robot pressed a large red button on the machine. Buzz! A blue-violet light beam scanned her from head to toe. Her skin flushed warm, but it wasn't painful. Instantly, the silver wall monitor updated. The Black Tower ID, E177, Mental Aberration Index, 27%. Lin's Eye frowned at the monitor. Your contamination level is quite high, and your ranking is poor. You're going straight to District 3. The people over there are vicious. Don't push your luck. Tang Yinyin caught the keyword. Her mission was to investigate the death of the tower's top psychiatrist. She tested the waters. Dr. Lin, are there psychiatrists in District 3? At the mention of psychiatrist, Lin's eyes flickered with subtle panic. She quickly masked it. Yes. Every district has them. Submit an application to the District 3 manager if you need help. Time's up. Get out. Tang Yinyin complied, stepping off the machine. The robot escorted her out of the lab and into a massive silver hall packed with 300 to 400 people. The entire space was divided into semi-enclosed glass cubicles, each containing a single chair. Extreme psychological oppression. She was led to cubicle E177. The cubicle ahead of her was empty. Behind her, lines of stressed, terrified women waited. The youngest, E200, looked barely 15. They all wore identical uniforms, crisp white shirts, and pleated white miniskirts. Serial numbers were stamped directly onto their skin, across their arms or necks. Tang Yinyin checked her collarbone. The code E177 was printed neatly on her skin. No pain. A robot pushed a food cart down the aisle, offering basic bread and water. Tang Yinyin's stomach rumbled. After entering the mission world, her pocket dimension and system points were completely locked. She was penniless, save for a crumpled $50 bill she found in her pocket. That will be 3-star coins, the robot stated, holding out a mechanical hand. She hesitated, staring at the bill. In cubicle E176, an older woman turned to look at her. Her eyes were sunken, fixed in a dead, unblinking stare. She flashed a sweet, terrifying smile that made Tang Yinyin's skin crawl. Buy it, the woman whispered hoarsely. You still have coins. So enviable. First day in the Black Tower, right? Eat while you can. Trash like us, sorted into District 3 or 4, we're already dead. Those districts are packed with extreme high-index mental monsters. They'll strip you of your cash anyway. The woman's mental state was entirely shattered. She began rocking, muttering to herself. So envious you still have taste buds. I forgot the taste of real food months ago. Everything tastes like the rubbery octopus tentacles they feed us at noon. Tang Yinyin's scalp tingled. She pulled her hand back, refusing the bread. Unexpectedly, this minor action triggered the woman completely. She lunged forward, her pupils dilated and robotic. She screamed into Tang Yinyin's face. Why didn't you buy it? Why didn't you buy it? Why didn't you buy it? She threw herself at the glass partition. Instantly, red emergency lights flashed across the entire hall. Sirens wailed. Ting subject E176 experiencing a rapid mental spike. Urgent psychiatric intervention required. Ting subject E176 mental aberration index has exceeded 50%. Executing immediate physical containment. 2-meter-tall security robot slammed into the cubicle, pinning the screaming woman to the floor before she could tear into Tang Yinyin. A door in the corner flew open. The woman was dragged inside, shrieking. The sign above the closing door flashed red. Emergency psychiatric treatment room. Tang Yinyin waited in the silver hall for another half hour until the remaining 20 women finished their scans. 2 more candidates snapped, their index scores spiking past the threshold, and were dragged into the treatment room by the robots. The remaining women sat with hollow, dead eyes. This week's examination is concluded. Free movement authorized. Dr. Lin's voice boomed over the speakers. The massive silver doors slid open, revealing a long, winding corridor. At the far end, natural sunlight filtered through. Tang Yinyin followed the crowd out. Beside her, subject E165 complained to E166. District 3 again. God, I loathe that place. The cells are tiny, the jobs are garbage, and we only get one psychiatry session a week. How am I supposed to lower my aberration index? I'll never transfer to District 2. Subject E166 et al. Pragmatic woman snorted. Take my advice and stop dreaming. Every district is a graveyard. As long as we are trapped inside this black tower, this is life. Obsessing over it will only trigger your mutation faster. Besides, Dr. Yuan is dead. The treatment sessions are useless now anyway. Dr. Yuan's death is a tragedy. E165 sighed. He was the only thing keeping half the tower sane. Tang Yinyin memorized every word, collecting vital puzzle pieces. As they exited the corridor, a pristine green lawn unfolded beneath a brilliant sky. Hundreds of residents walked around, all clad in stark white uniforms. Only the select few wore distinct clothing. With no mandatory work assignments yet, Tang Yinyin used her $50 bill to buy bread and water from a cart. She sat in a quiet corner of the park, waiting for System 033 to download the data. System 033 was a severe workaholic, managing 66 hosts simultaneously. Tang Yinyin had to wait her turn in the digital queue. 30 minutes later, a massive data packet finally dropped into her brain. She opened the file immediately. World lore. The Black Tower is an elite asylum built exclusively to contain and treat individuals suffering from extreme mental instability and advanced mental aberration. Everyone inside possesses a degree of psychological mutation and requires strict psychiatric care. Note: this is the official public definition. Structure: the Black Tower is split into 4 primary sectors, segregated strictly by the residents' mental contamination levels. Would you like to proceed with the review for the next section to see which district Nie Gen was dropped into and how Tang Yinyin locates his non-human form? Residents with a mutation index over 50% lived in District 4. Those between 20% and 50% occupied District 3. A range of 10% to 20% secured a spot in District 2, while anything under 10% earned a ticket to District 1. If your contamination level stabilized below 5% for an entire year, you could leave the Black Tower forever. No one knew where the patients whose indexes exceeded 100% went. They simply vanished. Here, psychiatrists held absolute power, granting residents between 1 and 4 therapy sessions a week depending on their sector. Below the official lore was an explicit addendum from the A-tier world mission provider. My name is Yi Chen. I am the younger sister of Yi Huan. My brother was a bright, cheerful man who always looked on the bright side. Why did he die the morning after conducting a therapy session for Taigan's crew in District 3? The robots claim the cause of death is uninvestigable, but something is wrong. District 3 residents are entirely unstable, and that Taigan is a vicious brute. I know his crew murdered my brother. Tang Yinyin's eyes locked onto the name Taigan in District 3. The grand villain had entered this mission world alongside her. Was it possible that this brute was actually him? Hello, 033, she queried internally. Is the Nie Gen who transmigrated with me Taigan? The busy system took 3 minutes to reply. He is Taigan. But whether he is the Taigan native to this specific mission world, I lack the clearance to answer. Tang Yinyin. She stared at the text, her cheeks flushing warm. She tried pressing 033 for more details, but this new system was completely different from the snarky yet helpful 021. It was cold and detached. Every single query regarding Nie Gen or the murder investigation was met with the exact same phrase. Exceeds clearance level. Unanswerable. However, the time limit was explicitly set, 1 month. Failure meant losing 5,000 system points. That was a financial blow her wallet couldn't survive. To save time, she spent the afternoon cornering various robots, extracting bits of lore about the Black Tower. The human residents were too hurried and unstable to chat, ignoring her completely. By dusk, she had patched together 2 vital rules. First, District 3 enforced a strict 7 p.m. curfew. Due to high contamination levels, residents frequently suffered terrifying psychological hallucinations. Everyone had to be locked inside the dormitory by 7. And no one could leave until 7 p.m. Second, survival in District 3 was expensive. Free lodging was provided, along with a 50-star coin monthly stipend, but everything else cost money. Utilities ran 8 coins a month, and the mandatory weekly exam cost 5 coins. Food and water required cash. If you ran out of coins, you could eat for free at the welfare cafeteria. The nutrition is rich, a mechanical chef told her, though I do not understand why the residents' mental aberration index spikes after eating it. Tang Yinyin accepted a free bag of the welfare porridge. One look at the thick, Yellowish-green slime mixed with floating red and black chunks destroyed her appetite. The second look made her want to throw it in the trash. But she was broke. After subtracting utilities and exam fees, she only had 17 star coins left. A single loaf of bread and a water bottle had already drained 5 coins. Total robbery. She couldn't afford to be picky. By 6 a.m., she gripped her bag of slime and headed back. District 3 consisted of 3 major landmarks: the stark white psychiatry building, a circular blue and white welfare hall, and a massive black 4-sided dormitory pressing directly against District 4. As a newly registered patient on her first day, her general ignorance didn't arouse any suspicion. A receptionist robot guided her to her room assignment. 30 minutes before curfew, the streets emptied drastically. A panicked stampede rushed the elevators and stairwells. Tang Yinyin lacked the physical strength to fight the crowd. She was shoved backward repeatedly, sweat pooling on her forehead. With 10 minutes left on the clock, the lobby cleared. Only 4 people remained. Building E had 6 elevators servicing 50 floors. Her room was number 76 on the 40th floor. Walking up was a physical impossibility. But at the current rate of the elevators, she wouldn't make it to her door before 7 p.m. As she calculated the time, a weak, breathless female voice echoed behind her. People who stay out past curfew encounter horrific things. Tang Yinyin stiffened, turning around to face a pair of tear-filled eyes. It was number E200, the 16-year-old girl from the morning exam. Ding! 2 elevators arrived simultaneously. The doors directly in front of Tang Yinyin slid open. She took 2 steps forward, then froze. The elevator floor was drenched in a thick, sticky coat of bright red liquid. A foul wind blew outward, carrying the heavy stench of fresh copper and blood. An unrecognizable, mangled person lay on the floor, convulsing violently. Her heart skipped a beat. She recoiled. Unexpectedly, the thing's head snapped around a full 180 degrees, its hollow, empty eyes locking onto her. Cold sweat drenched her spine. Breathing became impossible. She screamed for 033 in her head, but received absolute silence. Sister, E200's quiet voice broke the illusion, dragging her back to reality. Sister, aren't you getting in? The girl asked, pointing toward the second elevator. 2 young men stood inside it. They had completely ignored the bloody elevator. Tang Yinyin swallowed her terror and stepped inside with the girl. The 2 men wore badges reading D182 and D186. They stood in the corner, eyes darting with extreme paranoia. As the doors slid shut, the mangled entity from the first elevator began crawling out onto the lobby floor. Tang Yinyin's face drained of color. She slammed her thumb onto the button for the 40th floor. Sister, you look terrible, E200 whispered. Did you see something unclean? Tang Yinyin forced a shake of her head. It's nothing. Thank you. The girl smiled sweetly. You're welcome. The temperature inside the elevator plummeted. The 2 men in the corner stared at Tang Yinyin with mounting hostility. Fortunately, the machine was fast. They bolted out at the 32nd floor, casting a bizarre, lingering look at her. When the elevator hit the 40th floor, the clock read 6:55 p.m. Tang Yinyin stepped into the corridor, noticing the young girl wasn't following. E200 lingered in the elevator, murmuring softly, Sister, what is that thing hanging on the red string around your neck? I can't get close to you at all. Tang Yinyin paused, her hand flying to the bristly dogtail grass ring resting against her collarbone. What? Right at that moment the corridor sensor lights flared. The bright beam illuminated the elevator cab just as the doors began to close. Tang Yinyin stared down. Underneath E200's feet, the floor was entirely blank. No shadow. Terror struck like a physical blow. Tang Yinyin's legs turned to jelly, her breath coming in ragged gasps. She slid against the silver wall, completely paralyzed by fear. She couldn't scream. She couldn't run. She simply clutched the grass ring, sweat pouring down her face in the dark corridor. Hey! A lazy, intimately familiar voice shattered the endless silence. The overhead lights flickered awake. Drenched in sweat, Tang Yinyin looked up. A tall, heavily built man in a pristine black military uniform was leaning against a doorway, arms crossed over his chest. An unlit cigarette dangled from his lips. He possessed chiseled muscles, cropped silver hair, and brilliant golden eyes framed by thick white lashes. His uniform was buttoned tightly to his throat, yet his posture oozed pure, unadulterated lawlessness. His golden eyes tracked her up and down. 2 minutes to curfew. Why aren't you inside? Her strength collapsed entirely. She whimpered, Brother Can. Nie Gen's brow twitched violently, like someone had yanked his tail. What did you just call me? Tang Yinyin's vision blurred with tears, sweat slicking her cheeks. There's a ghost, Brother Can. I'm scared, Nie Gen scoffed, stepping forward. There are no ghosts. Your mental aberration index is clearly looping out of control. So weak, yet you wander out late. He surveyed her properly. She looked tiny, pale, and entirely fragile, her long lashes fluttering like trapped butterflies. She was terrified out of her mind, yet her small hand remained stubbornly wrapped around a cheap grass ring on her neck. A total idiot. It annoyed him for no reason. With 10 seconds left until curfew, Nie Gen crushed his cigarette. He grabbed her slender wrist, shaking her twice to snap her out of the panic. Curfew is hitting. Where is your room key? His grip was massive. Even in this conscious projection, his raw physical strength remained unchanged. His calloused palm squeezed her sensitive skin, the touch sensitivity side effect from her real body magnifying the pain across her nerves. Tang Yinyin burst into tears. Nie Gen, annoyed, he bit down on his cigarette and turned to leave, but her small, trembling hand reached out, grabbing his dark sleeve. Where are you going? Nie Gen was entirely speechless, his tone turning vicious. Where I go is none of your business. Who even are you? The girl blinked, then her tears completely overflowed, soaking a massive patch of his black military trousers. Damn it! He cursed violently in his mind. His chest felt like it had been branded with a white-hot iron. Painful. Annoying. He couldn't leave her. Gritting his teeth, he snatched her arm. In the final 2 seconds before curfew, he dragged her directly into his own room on the 40th floor. Click! The heavy metal door sealed. Outside, a patrol robot's cold voice echoed down the hall. Curfew initiated. Doors locked. Let us pray for a better tomorrow. Nie Gen's expression was murderous. He released her, ripping open the top buttons of his uniform jacket to breathe. He flipped on the lights and stormed into the inner room without a word. The sticky, freezing aura of the hallway vanished. The room was oppressive, but entirely safe. Tang Yinyin sank onto a chair, quietly rubbing her bruised wrist until the phantom pain subsided. 2 minutes later, 033 finally answered. Host, did you call? Oh wow, sleeping with Big Can on night 1? That fast? Tang Yinyin, she collected her thoughts. Did the person who transmigrated with me lose his memories? Big Can's soul in your S-tier world is too powerful. 033 explained quickly. The main system couldn't force his entire entity here. We only extracted a projection of his consciousness. So this is half a Nie Gen? Will his real body retain these memories after the mission? Naturally, 033 chirped, pausing subtly. Consciously, they are one person. But biologically, how do you know he only has one Big Can? You're young, get creative about your partner. Tang Yinyin, she suspected the system was turning completely inappropriate, but she lacked proof. Still, the absurdity worked. Her mind was suddenly flooded with bizarre thoughts of multiple Nie Gens, successfully drowning out the lingering terror of the faceless girl in the elevator. Her heart rate normalized. Thinking back to the bloody scene, she asked, does this world actually have ghosts? 033 giggled. Vicious perverts? Oh, absolutely. There might even be one inside this room right now. Single relevant follow-up question. Would you like to proceed with the next chapter to see how Tang Yinyin navigates spending the night in the amnesiac Nie Gen's room? Tang Yinyin was completely baffled. 033. Why do you always twist the conversation that way? The system defended itself shamelessly. That is just who I am. If you dislike me, I will simply stop speaking to you. Input your mission answers directly into the console. I am leaving a backup system module. Goodbye. 60 other hosts are currently queuing for my attention. No way out. Tang Yinyin desperately called for 033 inside her mind, but the workaholic entity had vanished. Only a cold, robotic automated voice remained. Hello. System call detected. To leave a message, press 1. To submit a mission answer, press 2. Friendly reminder. You possess exactly 1 chance to submit your answer. She sighed, genuinely missing the lively, responsive system. 21. Unexpectedly, a thin black bedsheet flew through the air, draping over her head. From the dark room, Nie Gen's lazy voice drifted over. I am going to strip naked. Tang Yinyin froze. Since this version of the grand villain had amnesia and possessed a volatile temper, she remained perfectly still under the sheet to avoid being thrown out. Nie Gen loosened his tight tie. Seeing the submissive girl remain motionless, a dark smirk played on his lips before he strode into the bathroom. The sound of rushing water echoed. She pulled the sheet off her head, wiping sweat from her brow. Clutching the fabric, she inspected the metal door. It was embedded with dark glass, which slowly transitioned into a transparent pane, revealing the pitch-black hallway. Right at that moment, the sound of an elevator chime rang out. The corridor sensor lights flared. Outside stood Subject E200, smiling widely. Her feet cast no shadow. Blood oozed from her curved eyes. As the glass became clear, the girl pressed her face hard against the pane, her neck stretching mechanically, growing longer and longer until her features flattened against the transparent surface. Her lips moved soundlessly. "Sister." Tang Yinyin scrambled backward. The entity's smile turned frozen and furious. It began slamming its head rhythmically against the glass. Thud, thud. Hairline fractures bloomed across the pane. The entire door shook. Terrified, Tang Yinyin sprinted toward the bathroom, slamming her hands against the door. "Brother Ken, there's a ghost." The metal door rattled violently. Foul, rotting blood leaked through the frame. Realizing Nie Gen never locked doors while bathing, she twisted the handle. The door flew open from the inside. A gust of thick, warm steam billowed out, dispelling the freezing dread. Nie Gen stood there barefoot, wearing only dark trousers. His silver hair was damp and sudsy, his golden eyes flashing with raw fury. Before he could roar, Tang Yinyin blurted out, "Brother Can, your fly is unzipped." Nie Gen. He looked down. His face instantly turned pitch black. Tang Yinyin seized the distraction, darting past his arm into the bathroom. Nie Gen gritted his teeth, his temper flaring. "What do you think you are doing?" Trembling, her eyelashes wet with tears, she leaned against the wall. "Brother Can, it was love at first sight. Can I stay with you?" Nie Gen stared at her with total disbelief. However, his gaze swept toward the transparent door glass. The illumination from the bathroom cast an eerie, unsettling glow down the corridor. Understanding her panic, our guy grabbed her arm, pulling her behind his broad back as he walked out barefoot. He ripped several sheets of newspaper from the table, soaped them, and slapped them flat against the glass pane. The reflections disappeared. The room returned to normal. "Done. No more ghosts," Nie Gen grunted, turning around. He froze. In the bathroom doorway, Tang Yinyin was sitting on the floor, her clothes completely disheveled. He had accidentally knocked her over during his abrupt movement. The cold shower water had drenched her entirely, plastering her dark hair against her pale cheeks. Her knees were scraped and bleeding, and dark purple finger marks marred her white arms. Nie Gen's chest tightened. He stood frozen by the door. "Sorry." Tang Yinyin turned off the shower, wiping her face. When she looked up, she blinked. Unbelievable. Nie Gen was standing there with tears pooling in his golden eyes, his long white lashes wet, his expression filled with an intense, inexplicable grief. She offered him a towel. "Brother Can, water got in your eyes." He took it silently. She tried to soothe his pride. "Actually, ghosts aren't that scary. The one outside is shorter and uglier than you. You could easily beat it." Nie Gen. He realized she thought he was crying from fear. His brow twitched. He wanted to explain, but a ruthless god of death like him feeling guilty over a stranger made him feel insane. Frustrated, he aggressively scrubbed his hair with the towel. "Let me dry it for you," she offered softly. "Scrubbing like that will make you bald." His face darkened. He hurled the towel over her head. "I have plenty of hair." The suffocating tension broke. Tang Yinyin asked to borrow his bathroom, a towel, and a robe. The overlord reluctantly agreed. "Brother Can you wait out there until I'm done?" Nie Gen turned his head sharply, his golden pupils boring into her. "Sure, why don't we just bathe together?" "I meant, turn around. There is a curtain." He stepped closer, backing her into the wall. The scent of clean soap enveloped her. "Didn't you say it was love at first sight? Why not share a bath?" Stunned by his raw charm, her cheeks flushed. "Brother Nie Gen." The moment the words left her lips, his expression turned freezing cold. He recoiled, his gaze dropping to the grass ring on her neck. His lips curled in pure mockery. "Who is Nie Gen? Are you mourning a dead husband?" Tang Yinyin stayed silent. She had slipped up. He was Tai Gan here, not Nie Gen. But hearing him call himself a dead husband was hilarious. She bit her lip, her shoulders shaking as she tried to stifle her laughter. Nie Gen assumed her silence meant he was right. His lungs nearly burst with jealousy. "Stop calling me. Go call your brother Nie Gen to fight the ghosts." He slammed the bathroom door shut. The grand villain was truly furious. By the time Tang Yinyin walked out wrapped in an oversized robe, the lights were off. He was in bed. As she crept closer, he loudly feigned talking in his sleep. "Haven't tasted human flesh in a while. Anyone who climbs into this bed tonight gets eaten alive." Tang Yinyin sighed. Amnesia hadn't stopped him from being a jealous tyrant. Exhausted and hungry, she called his name a few times. No response. Giving up, she pulled a soft floor cushion next to the mattress, curled up against the bed frame, and fell fast asleep. Hearing her breathing stabilize, Nie Gen opened his eyes in the dark. He had been waiting for an explanation. Black-faced, he flipped on a small lamp. He fetched an old first aid kit, retrieving antiseptic and bandages. Our guy knelt beside her on the floor, wrestling with his thoughts before gently lifting the edge of her robe. He cleaned her bleeding knees with extreme care. Then he pulled her slender arm out, applying salve to the purple bruises he had left behind. She only whimpered slightly, too exhausted to wake. Once finished, his rough thumb slid down her smooth skin, tracing the delicate, pulsing veins on her wrist. Tang Yinyin shivered. Nie Gen forced himself to drop her hand, his internal heat rising. He cupped her chin, his voice raspy. I really want to know where you came from. He checked her arms and neck for identification stamps. Nothing. He carefully nudged the collar of her robe aside, exposing her pale collarbone. There it was, printed in stark black ink. Number E176, Tang Yinyin. The placement of the number under her collarbone sent a jolt straight through his system. The number 6 curved into her skin like a hook, instantly snaring his heart, his hand, and his very soul. He traced the mark with a trembling finger. Her skin felt incredibly soft, warm, and fragile, like a glass flower. One harsh storm would shatter her completely. Yinyin, he breathed her name, an uncontrollable thirst clawing at his chest. His eyes blazed. He leaned down, his lips brushing her eyelids and cheek before his teeth nipped possessively against her collarbone. Single relevant follow-up question. Would you like to read the next chapter to see how Tang Yinyin reacts when she wakes up in Nie Gen's bed the next morning? Tang Yinyin winced from the sharp pain. In her semi-conscious haze, she was bitten completely awake by the man, her voice incredibly soft as she called out, "Brother Can? Holy shit!" Hearing her voice, Nie Gen's entire body shuddered as if struck by electricity. A pair of silver-white triangular animal ears shot up from his head instantly. Realizing he had been aggressively handling her, his trousers suddenly bulged with a highly visible alteration. He froze completely like an absolute idiot, his handsome face flushing a deep crimson all the way to his ears. Panicking for a long moment while Tang Yinyin stared at him sleepily, our guy suddenly raised a massive hand and slapped his own face hard. Tang Yinyin, she blinked, her mind clearing as she watched himself inflict a slap. Her gaze drifted upward to the twitching silver ears nestled in his white hair, her eyes widening in pure disbelief. Brother Taigan, what are you doing? Nie Gen stayed completely silent. He flattened his ears against his head with both hands, looking both furious and deeply aggrieved. So now you remember my name is Taigan? Without waiting for a reply, he threw the blanket straight over Tang Yinyin's head, covering her completely. Then he sprinted into the bathroom like a man fleeing a natural disaster. Tang Yinyin, she tossed the blanket aside, listening to the rushing water resume inside the bathroom. Totally clueless, she could not comprehend his logic. After all, a normal human could never truly understand the mental gymnastics of Big Can. As the thought crossed her mind, she became fully alert. She vividly remembered seeing those silver ears right before transmigrating into this world. Combined with his pinned-back ears, his shifting eye color, and his bizarre mood swings, she finally realized something was seriously wrong. Back in their original world, she assumed his occasional golden eye flashes were a residual side effect from handling hazardous objects for the Special Dangerous Species Containment and Management Bureau. But here he was a mere consciousness projection. Why were his pupils still a brilliant, honey-gold hue? And those sharp, highly responsive animal ears on his head were completely abnormal. If the first time was an illusion, the second time couldn't be a mistake. A series of wild thoughts bloomed in her mind. Thanks to the terrifying ghost encounters and 033 vulgar suggestions, she felt she was on the verge of uncovering a world-shattering secret regarding Nie Gen. Her heart raced, though she couldn't tell if it was excitement or anxiety. She decided to face the truth. Slipping quietly out of bed, she kept the main lights off, navigating by the dim glow of the small desk lamp. She tiptoed toward the bathroom door. The door wasn't completely opaque. It featured a frosted glass pane, allowing a blurry view of the interior. Pressing herself carefully against the wall amid the roaring water, she observed Nie Gen's silhouette cast against the glass. Long, muscular limbs, broad shoulders, a narrow waist. The structure perfectly matched his human form. That is, if you ignored the sharp triangular ears on his head, and the 2 vertical protrusions resembling dragon horns, and the 9 massive tails thrashing wildly behind him. No, wait, it looked like 10 tails. Tang Yinyin stared intensely at the shadow. The 10th tail was exceptionally strange. It was shorter than the rest, significantly less flexible, yet far thicker and harder. Its mounting position also seemed entirely wrong, shifting heavily toward the front of his pelvis. As she wondered about its anatomy, Nie Gen suddenly tilted his torso. His large palm gripped that specific defective tail, his long fingers moving in a rapid, rhythmic motion. Instantly, all 10 appendages shuddered violently in unison. The vivid memory of handling his gun back in the police station rushed into her mind. Tang Yinyin abruptly realized what that 10th tail actually was. She ripped her gaze away, her cheeks burning a furious crimson. Blushing furiously, she tiptoed back to the bed and buried her face under the covers, her brain a chaotic mess. Nie Gen was definitely a non-human entity, but why did he possess 9 tails, triangular ears, and dragon horns all at once? Tang Yinyin skipped right past the shock of discovering his true nature, landing straight into a realm of deep confusion. She wanted answers, yet she was terrified to know. Strangely, knowing he wasn't human didn't spark panic or dread. His normal personality was already so unhinged that being a literal monster actually made perfect sense. Her thoughts drifted as she listened to the water splash. What kind of beast had 9 tails and dragon horns? If he were a dragon, he might actually possess 2 big cans like 033 implied, but he had always operated with just one. Unlikely. If he were a 9-tailed fox, why the horns? She couldn't solve the puzzle. She wanted to know his exact species, but stabilizing her racing heart, she prioritized the mission. Given the grand villain's track record, fluent in direct flirting but completely secretive about his flaws, he clearly wanted to hide his non-human identity. Otherwise, he wouldn't have concealed it so tightly back home. Right now, his temporary amnesia was the only reason he was slipping up. Furthermore, she had a practical worry. If she'd exposed him, what if he turned desperately embarrassed and demanded to test her compliance using his beast form big can? She hadn't even prepared herself psychologically for his human form, let alone a monstrous variation. She recalled the spicy web novel Forum 021 used to show her. Terms like knotting, ridges, and lock bars flashed through her mind, sending a literal chill down her spine. Shaking off the thoughts, she summoned 033 backup system module. Hello host. To leave a message, press 1. To submit a mission answer, press 2. She selected 1, typing out a massive list of questions about mythical species before submitting it with a polite thank you. The backup system, 0333, chimed, "You're very welcome. Have fun playing with your partner Taigan tilde. Tang Yinyin, classic 033 style." Even the backup module was unhinged. She intended to wait for Nie Gen to finish, so she could question him about Yuan. After all, he was the prime suspect according to the victim's sister, but the grand villain was a tyrant through and through. Even in an alternate world, his endurance was terrifyingly long. Longer even. She waited until her eyes grew heavy, but the bathroom door remained shut. Unable to stay awake, she instructed the 333 to wake her at 5 p.m. and collapsed into sleep. When she opened her eyes, daylight flooded the room. She was alone on the mattress. Nie Gen had vanished again. "What time is it?" she asked 0333. "The system clock reads exactly 5 p.m. Tang Yinyin paused. She crawled out of bed and looked through the glass pane of the metal door. Outside, people were already walking around. The curfew had been lifted, but wasn't curfew enforced until 7 p.m. Did they change the schedule? She frowned. Her eyes caught a silver alarm clock resting on the desk. The hands read 7:30. She froze. Does the backup system calculate time based on this world? She questioned. The backup module requires manual synchronization, 0333 chirped. It defaults to your original world's timeline tilde. Pieces of the puzzle clicked together. She grabbed a piece of paper and a pen from the desk, jotting down the metrics. Her manual clock had been set shortly after entering District 3, when the variance was minimal. Over a single night, the tower's clock had advanced 2.5 hours faster than her system clock. Time inside the black tower flowed faster than the real world. Both dimensions used a standard 24-hour structure, meaning the actual speed of a second was different here. Tang Yinyin observed the clock ticking. Every minute inside the tower was roughly 15 seconds shorter than a real-world minute. Therefore, 1 tower hour equaled only 45 real-world minutes. The 12-hour curfew from 7 p.m. to 7 p.m. actually lasted only 9 real hours. She memorized the data. Flipping the paper over, she noticed a few lines of bold, sweeping handwriting on the back. "Your contamination level is high. Stay inside today. Food is in the fridge. I accept your confession. When I return this afternoon, you better explain exactly who the hell Nie Gen is. Signed, Taigan, Tang Yinyin." She tucked the note away, changed into fresh clothes, and waited. Seeing no horrific elevator hallucinations returning, she pocketed the spare key Nie Gen left and exited his room. Yuan had been dead for 3 days. The system gave her a month, but a cold trail meant less chance of uncovering the truth. It was 8 a.m. tower time. The corridor was lively with residents heading out. Their steps were lighter now, some exchanging casual greetings. Nie Gen lived in room E1 right next to the elevators. The E-block had 8 residential floors, each housing 20 units. Tang Yinyin walked down to her assigned room, finding the door unlocked and slightly ajar. She stepped inside, meeting 3 pairs of wary, suspicious eyes. 3 women occupied the cramped space. A short-haired girl stood by the entrance clutching a metal basin. She looked to be her own age. A glamorous woman sat on a chair painting her nails, sporting voluminous waves and a sultry black strap dress. In the back, a woman in her 40s wearing thick glasses huddled over a dense translation manuscript. "Are you number E176? The short-haired girl barked, scouting Tang Yinyin up and down with a frown. "Why didn't you return before curfew last night?" Tang Yinyin offered a polite smile. "Apologies. Is it mandatory to sleep in one's assigned room every night?" The girl hadn't expected the pushback. "Of course it is. Everyone gets one bed. If you stay out, there's nowhere else to go. No one else's roommates would allow a stranger to squat in their unit anyway." Tang Yinyin glanced at the 6-bunk arrangement and thanked her. "HMPH, I just don't want to see my roommates replaced every 2 days," the girl snapped, her voice rising. "People sorted into District 3 already have a massive mutation index. Wandering out at night is a literal death wish." With a loud clang, she threw her basin onto the floor. The sharp sound startled her own frayed nerves, causing her to shiver violently as she scooped it back up. Tang Yinyin spotted the code stamped on her arm. D05. A D serial. She had arrived much earlier than the E serial group. Her mental contamination level was clearly teetering on the edge of a violent spike. Tang Yinyin navigated to her corner bunk and locker. Inside, she found 2 clean cotton uniforms, white shirts and skirts along with socks, a towel, a toothbrush, toothpaste, and an iron basin. She packed everything into the basin. Using 0333, she quietly logged her roommate's serial numbers and walked back out. The short-haired girl glared at her departure, while the other 2 never even looked up. Total isolation. She returned her gear to Nie Gen's room, then followed the street signage toward the District 3 Welfare Hall. The blue and white building housed administrative desks on floor 1, the welfare cafeteria on floor 2, and a massive library on floor 3. After paying a 10-star coin monthly archive fee, Tang Yinyin booted up a terminal. She began searching her roommates' profiles and the records surrounding Yiwan. The tower operated an internal network. External communication was blocked, but inter-district records were accessible for a fee of 2 coins per query. Thanks to Nie Gen's financial buffer, she could afford the research. She typed in the serial number from the ghost girl, E200. A moment later, text flashed on the screen. Number E200, DSI, female, 16 years old. Latest mental aberration index, 36, 6%. Entered the Black Tower on June 27, 2022. Reported missing on June 28. Tang Yinyin felt the chill snake down her spine. The missing date was yesterday. The girl who had pressed her bleeding face against the glass pane was already dead. She pulled up yesterday's general missing persons report for District 3. Total, 2 people. Number E200. And number C105. C105 was a male. The physical descriptions and age profile matched the mangled entity she had encountered inside the bloody elevator. Single relevant follow-up question. Would you like to see what else Tang Yinyin uncovers in the library databases regarding the mysterious circumstances of Dr. Yuhuan's murder? Did the missing residents turn into ghosts after their contamination level exploded? Tang Yinyin found the explanation flimsy. She noted the anomaly and focused on researching Yuan. Since he was the tower's most celebrated psychiatrist, his historical profile and medical logs were entirely free to browse. She opened his profile picture. The man looked entirely different from her expectation of a gentle, comforting therapist. He looked over 30. His features oozed pure aggression. The outer corners of his eyes tilted upward sharply, displaying far more white than iris, creating an incredibly brooding aura. He wore a crisp black uniform. No trace of a smile touched his face. Gold-rimmed glasses rested on his high nose bridge. His pale fingers clad in stark white gloves tucked neatly under his chin. His eyes locked onto the camera lens with an intense, burning desire. It gave his pale, grim face a shockingly fierce sense of vitality, like a caged predator waiting to shatter its bars. The biography below was precise. Yiwan, serial number AZ1, age, 33, career span, 11 years, 11 months, and 29 days. Resident of District 1, Senior Chief Psychiatrist of the Black Tower, awarded the title The Light of Redemption. Unmarried. Deceased, June 25, 2022. Tang Yinyin stared at his exact career duration. The specific numbers felt incredibly unnatural. She dug deeper into the tower's medical hierarchy. Psychiatrists were simply baseline residents. If your contamination level stabilized below 5% for an entire year, you could apply for psychiatric training. Success granted permanent residency in District 1 and a massive salary of 30,000 star coins a month. Furthermore, they held management privileges. A chief psychiatrist could authorize 5 inter-district transfers a year for residents, provided the index fluctuation wasn't too extreme. If Tang Yinyin became a psychiatrist, she could move Nie Gen from the harsh storms of District 3 into the comfortable housing of District 2. Remembering the provider's sister, she immediately searched for Yinyin. The girl was under 10 years old. Her latest contamination level sat at 8%, earning her a permanent slot in District 1. Shockingly, the database indicated no recognized biological relationship between her and Yuan. A 23-year age gap between siblings was already rare. Tang Yinyin queried internally, is the sibling connection in the mission file biological or a personal claim? Unexpectedly, the voice that answered wasn't the backup module. It was 033. Wow, host. You spent the night with Tai Gan and actually managed to crawl out of bed today. Tang Yinyin, 033. Your tone is highly inappropriate, she chided. A strange, crunchy chewing sound echoed inside her skull. Then file a complaint against me. For the sake of the mission points, she'd endured the attitude. 033 swallowed and continued. They share zero blood relation. Yinyin viewed Yuan as her true older brother, but Yuan never acknowledged it. Think of it like a crazy fan chasing her favorite idol during peacetime. Tang Yinyin understood. She spent a hefty 15 star coins to unlock the protocols for moving between District 3 and District 1, noted the transmission codes, and logged off. It was 1:30 p.m. tower time. She planned to visit the psychology center where Yuan used to practice, but as she walked down the street, the loud chewing sound in her mind grew deafening. 033, are you eating something? Yes. Chocolate-flavored spicy potato chips. 033 chirped happily. Incredibly delicious. Tang Yinyin was completely thrown. Systems can eat actual food? Weren't they just clusters of binary code? Can a software program experience taste buds? 033 scoffed. Why not? That is pure discrimination. You get to enjoy Big Can whenever you want, but I can't have a single potato chip? Tang Yinyin hesitated for a brief second, and then she stepped directly toward Yinyin, extending the sweet treats. Little sister, stop crying. Are you lost? Hearing someone address her, Yinyin mechanically halted her sobbing. Her deep black, hollow eyes locked onto Tang Yinyin, silent and unblinking. It felt like a machine scanning a barcode. Unexpectedly, Nie Gen erupted. He strode over aggressively, gripping Tang Yinyin's arm. Leaning his face right against her ear, he spoke through gritted teeth. Didn't I tell you to rest at home? My fiancé. His breath was scorching hot against her neck. Ever since Tang Yinyin swallowed that mysterious yellow glass bead, her physical senses regarding him had become incredibly acute. In an instant, her ears flushed scarlet, her legs turned to jelly, her entire body toppled straight forward. Ouch! As Nie Gen caught her, his rough palm accidentally swept across her waist, triggering a jolt of numbing static. Tang Yinyin trembled violently, biting her lip for a long moment to regain her composure. She looked up with watery eyes. Brother Tai Gan, can you let go of me first? Nie Gen stared intensely, his voice thick and raspy. Fine. He agreed easily enough. However, his massive hand clamped tightly around her waist instead, hauling her flush against his chest. He gave her a possessive embrace, utterly convinced he was being gentle. I listen to everything you say. Tang Yinyin felt as if her bones were being crushed inside his hold. By the time she managed to break free from his arms, the girl named Yinyin had vanished completely. The surrounding subordinates were grinning widely, exchanging rowdy jokes. Boss, you got yourself a fiancé after just one day? Yeah, boss. What should we call our new sister-in-law? Boss? Surrounded by the loud chanting, Tang Yinyin watched Nie Gen pull a cigarette from his pocket. He bit it loosely between his lips, throwing a familiar, sideways glare at his men. Beat it. Stop crowding us. My wife and I haven't even picked an auspicious wedding date yet. Tang Yinyin. A second ago she was the fiancé, now she was the wife. The frequency of a normal human mind simply could not sync with Big Can. Once the crew scattered, Nie Gen naturally grabbed her hand. Come on, let's go on a date. Tang Yinyin queried to 33 internally. Did something happen after I fell asleep last night? Otherwise, why the massive shift in his attitude? 033 munched on another chip. Sounding deeply amused, he cried and admitted he fell in love at first sight. He is literally cuckolding his own identity. Your husband loves you even in his subconscious. Tisk. I wonder who will suffer once you return to reality. Tang Yinyin. The system's comment sent a cold shiver down her spine. The mere thought of the grand villain recovering his memories made her fingers and inner thighs ache in anticipation. Amid her frantic thoughts, Nie Gen stopped in front of a service robot. "Book a room." Tang Yinyin. She tugged his sleeve quickly, whispering, "It's broad daylight. Booking a room right now is a bit inappropriate, isn't it?" Nie Gen realized she had completely misunderstood. He cocked an eyebrow. "Then give your brother a kiss, and I won't book it." Tang Yinyin hesitated. She scanned the bustling first floor of the White Tower. Nobody was paying attention to their corner. She lifted his massive arm, gently pressing her lips against the back of his hand. Nie Gen didn't budge an inch. She paused, grabbing the grand villain's arm for balance. She strained on her tiptoes. It took immense effort just to plant a soft kiss on his chin. "Is that enough?" she murmured. Nie Gen replied sluggishly, "You missed my mouth. Doesn't count." Tang Yinyin threw him an angry glare. The man was simply too tall. Her head barely reached his shoulders, and Nie Gen intentionally refused to bend down. She physically could not reach his lips. That glare sent a surge of heat straight through Nie Gen's chest. Smirking, he snatched the keycard from the dispensing robot, pulling her into an empty elevator. He punched the button for floor 67. His golden eyes flashed with deep meaning. "Let's see who you miss more after today. Nie Gen or Tai Gan." Tang Yinyin. She wanted to refuse, but seeing him effortlessly access the restricted 67th floor of the White Tower, she held her tongue and followed. The elevator doors slid shut. Before Nie Gen could initiate any mischief, she preempted him. "Brother Tai Gan, I checked the dorms this morning. Everyone lives in a 6-person bunk. Why does your unit have a private living room and bedroom?" Nie Gen smirked. "Take a guess." Tang Yinyin was entirely speechless. She tried again. "The library database says everything below floor 66 consists of medical facilities. Floor 67 is completely closed to outsiders." Nie Gen looked utterly smug. "Your man has his ways." Tang Yinyin. With a sharp chime, the elevator doors parted. Several sleek service robots stood waiting outside. They bowed politely, guiding the pair toward the viewing theater. Only then did she realize she had misjudged the grand villain. His version of booking a room was simply renting a private theater to watch a movie. The theater was a compact room spanning roughly 10 square meters. The walls and floor consisted of sterile, silver-white metal. The space was pitch black. Right in the center sat a massive bed measuring over 3 meters wide. Tang Yinyin wanted to turn around and bolt instantly. Nie Gen trapped her with a single arm, a low chuckle vibrating in his chest. "Yinyin, are you that scared of me?" She wasn't afraid of him now. She was terrified of his real-world persona once his memory returned. She steeled her nerves, deciding to take a massive gamble. "Mr. Nie Gen, I cannot watch a movie with you." Nie Gen's golden eyes darkened instantly. His handsome facial features hardened into a freezing mask. "What did you just call me?" Tang Yinyin corrected herself rapidly. "Brother Tai Gan, the truth is, you are Nie Gen. You are just suffering from temporary amnesia right now. We came to the Black Tower together to investigate Yuan's death. Once we solve it, we can go home and get married." Nie Gen let out a mocking, icy laugh. "Do you take me for an idiot?" "It is the absolute truth," Tang Yinyin explained frantically. "This foxtail grass ring on my neck was a gift from you. It was incredibly hot that day. You carried me on your back all the way to the mountain woods." "Enough." Nie Gen's face turned completely black as he cut her off. He slammed a fist against his own palm, desperately suppressing the roaring jealousy devouring his mind. "Who cares about the details of your dates with Nie Gen?" The moment his shout faded, the pitch-black room suddenly ignited with faint, ambient light. The full-scale 3D projection equipment in the corner whirred to life. Artificial raindrops carrying a realistic chill began to fall from the ceiling, while the simulated sky filled with dense, rolling storm clouds. Melancholic music blared from the speakers. Simulated rain poured down on Nie Gen, soaking his short silver hair. Water pooled in his eyes, making him look pathetic. Tang Yinyin sighed internally. She genuinely regretted bringing him along for this mission. Our guy was literally destroying the weather out of raw jealousy. Unbelievable. Fortunately, the depressing rain was just the cinematic intro. Soon, the downpour stopped, replaced by an intensely sultry melody. The movie title slowly flashed across the screen. "Cornfield Romance, Avi?" Tang Yinyin stared in pure disbelief. Before she could even process it, Nie Gen strode over and cut the projector power. He loosened the high collar of his silver uniform, his voice raspy. "If I solve Yuan's murder, will you marry me?" She felt entirely helpless but nodded anyway. Anything to finish the mission and escape back to reality. Nie Gen clenched his jaw, his chest aching with a bitter sting. He stared at her in silence before lowering his voice. "Yichen might be the killer." Tang Yinyin frowned. "But isn't she his sister?" Yichen was the prime informant on the case file. She was barely 10 years old. If she killed him, Why express such intense grief over his death? Was it all an act? Yes. But she isn't human. She possesses a terrifying, obsessive desire to monopolize her brother entirely. Nie Gen tracked his gaze down Tang Yinyin's silhouette, his tone dropping into a dangerous, lazy drawl. If you ever run away from me, I might end up exactly like her. Tang Yinyin shuddered. Who would have thought the grand villain harbored such terrifying subconscious thoughts? On the surface, he usually behaved like a perfectly normal, albeit brutish, non-human entity. Seeing her pale face, Nie Gen frowned, chattering with frustration. He clicked a lighter, placing an unlit cigarette between his lips. One of my subordinates, Zhao Hu, saw him 3 days ago. He was the psychiatrist's very last patient. He scowled at the memory. Zhao Hu returned without any abnormalities. But the next morning, sanitation robots found Yuan inside the incinerator, burned to ashes. Tang Yinyin's skin crawled. Then how did they verify his identity? That day, the entire tower felt a sudden surge of hope. Only the main protagonist died. He checked his wrist. He crushed the unsmoked cigarette into an ashtray. Let's go. Floor 70. I will get you the file. She blinked in confusion. But once they arrived at the 70th floor of the White Tower, the sight of black uniformed police units made everything click. In this world, Nie Gen's identity was the Chief of Criminal Investigations. 033 finally swallowed its last potato chip. Correction. Not a chief. He is the absolute #1 underworld overlord of the Black Tower. Tang Yinyin, a prestigious title turned into a criminal mob boss in a single sentence. Classic 033. However, thanks to his terrifying status, she secured records that would normally take months to uncover. She focused on the promotion track for psychiatrists. It was a strict corporate ladder. Psychiatrists faced rigorous performance reviews every 3 years. If you secured 4 consecutive excellent ratings while keeping your contamination level strictly below 5%, a miracle occurred. The Black Tower would unlock the mysterious 5th District. The 5th District connected directly to the outside world. Inside that zone, the psychiatrist gained the authority to escort patients out for day trips. If a patient's contamination index fell below 10%, the doctor could declare them fully cured on the spot. According to Tower law, you are only cured if your index stayed below 5% for an entire consecutive year. Any doctor who unlocked this tier would instantly become the supreme entity inside the tower. The Black Tower was a literal prison. Life inside was oppressive, terrifying, and stagnant. One slip-up meant dropping down a district. If there was a way out, who wouldn't grab it? Sister-in-law, take a look at this. A rough-looking thug who looked exactly like Zhao Hu handed over a file. Tang Yinyin scanned the columns. It tracked Yuan's psychiatric evaluations over the last 12 years. Aside from his first 2 years, his contamination levels stayed locked below 1%. No exceptions. Never a single spike. The day he died was the literal eve of his 4th excellent review. He was hours away from opening the path to the outside world. He had never broken a single tower rule. Tang Yinyin looked at Zhao Hu. Has the 5th District ever opened before? Never, Zhao Hu grunted. The tower has only existed for 12 years. Dr. Yuan was the only human close to unlocking it. Tang Yinyin knit her brows. She felt she was missing a critical piece of the puzzle. She asked randomly Zhao Hu, how many seconds are in an hour? 3,600, obviously. He stared at her like she had lost her mind. Beside her, Nie Gen's golden eyes narrowed in deep thought. Later that evening, once curfew locked the doors and they returned to his suite, he cornered her. You think the clock speed inside the tower is wrong? Time moves much faster here, she confirmed. Nie Gen tracked her movements, a low smile breaking across his face. Want to go slip out and investigate right now? Tang Yinyin stared at him. It was 10 p.m. tower time. Curfew was active. She had already bathed. Nie Gen had stripped out of his heavy silver uniform, wearing only his familiar black tank top and camouflage trousers. He stood by the exit, his brilliant gold eyes burning with excitement. Going? Seduced by both his looks and the mission points, she nodded. Let's go. However, the moment she discovered his brilliant plan to bypass the security patrols, she instantly regretted her choice. His solution? Throwing a massive, oversized cloak around his shoulders and stuffing her directly underneath it. They walked as one giant silhouette. Miraculously, they avoided the patrol units and made it outside. Emerging from beneath the thick fabric, Tang Yinyin scanned the landscape. Total dead darkness. District 3 possessed a shred of vitality during the day. Now it was a ghost town. No stars, no moon, not even a breeze. A completely sealed box. She opened her mouth to speak, but a massive palm clamped over her lips. SHH. His hot breath brushed her neck as he dragged her behind an alleyway. Right at that moment, a heavy, metallic scraping sound echoed down the street. A faint red beam cut through the dark. Tang Yinyin peeked out, spotting several security robots dragging a massive iron car from the direction of District 4. Once they cleared a few hundred meters, Nie Gen spat a low curse. The cart is packed with the corpses of the missing residents. Her spine turned to ice. Her heart hammered against her ribs. As Nie Gen gripped her shoulder to head back, she grabbed his hand. "Brother Tai Gan, let's follow them." Nie Gen froze. Then, his fingers slid down to her wrist. With a sudden burst of strength, he hoisted her directly onto his back. The robots moved at a steady, mechanical pace. They converged with secondary units arriving from Districts 1 and 2, gathering at the rear entrance of the White Tower. Nie Gen waited for a gap, then swiped his master keycard against the primary scanner. The robots split up, heading toward floor 71. Nie Gen kept a tight grip on her hand, boldly walking straight into the main office on floor 70. He unlatched a ceiling ventilation grate, leaping up with fluid, cat-like agility before dropping back down. "Let's go home." Tang Yinyin stared at the open shaft. "Mr. Nie Gen, let me go up instead." The shaft was incredibly narrow. Even her petite frame would struggle to squeeze through. A massive man like Nie Gen had zero chance. No, his voice turned incredibly sharp. "Too dangerous." "I can do this," she insisted. The truth was right above them. If they missed this window, they might never get another shot. Nie Gen stared at her for a long, silent moment. Reaching into his shirt, he pulled out a tuft of pure white animal fur and shoved it into her hand. "If you hit danger, squeeze it 3 times. You have exactly 1 hour to return." She didn't understand the mechanic, but she tucked the snow-white fur safely against her chest. Instantly, Nie Gen's entire face flushed a furious, vibrant crimson. He snarled, his breath hitching. "Who allowed you to put my fur inside your shirt?" It was too soft. The sensory feedback traveled straight through the fibers into his nervous system. The sheer friction was driving him insane. Tang Yinyin blinked. Why was this man suddenly turning aggressive? Shaking her head, she stuffed the tuft into her back pants pocket instead. This time, Nie Gen experienced an immediate, highly visible physiological reaction. Tang Yinyin, after a frantic, embarrassing scramble, she finally put on his discarded uniform jacket and dropped the fur into the deep outer pocket. With a solid hoist from the Grand Villain, she scrambled into the metallic duct. She crawled through the pitch-black maze for 5 minutes, guided by 033 navigation. The duct split into a fork. Following a faint light to the right, she peered through a ventilation slit. She gasped. Below lay a massive, suffocating laboratory. Dozens of robots surrounded silver, oval-shaped pod machines. They were systematically unloading corpses from the iron carts. Tang Yinyin spotted E200, the young ghost girl, among the bodies. She was completely breathless, but her clothes were pristine. A robot snipped a lock of her hair before sliding her body into silver pod number 1. BP200. Cause of death: tachycardia. Mental imprint stack: 12 cycles. Cryostasis limits exceeded. Initiating recycling protocol. Recycling countdown: 3, 2, 1. The data screen flickered. The silver machinery whirred to life, pumping streams of pale liquid through tiny tubes toward an unknown core. Tang Yinyin broke out into a cold sweat. The subsequent corpses underwent the exact same extraction. She memorized the terms: mental imprint, recycling, cryostasis. Then she scrambled toward the left fork of the ventilation network. She reached an artificial cloning chamber. Robots were taking the hair and blood samples, dropping them into fluid-filled test tubes labeled with brand-new serial numbers. F001. Thump, thump. A heavy, rhythmic mechanical pulse echoed from the far end of the shaft. Tang Yinyin didn't hesitate, climbing upward floor by floor under 033 directions. Floor 73, the system whispered. An icy, bone-chilling draft swept through the metal vents. Tang Yinyin peered down at rows of endless hibernation pods. The massive chamber was a sterile silver hive, holding thousands of baseline human bodies locked in permanent stasis. From floor 73 all the way to floor 86, the tower was nothing but a massive human storage facility. Over 30 minutes had passed. Her breath hitched. She knew she had to turn back, but the ultimate truth of this world was within arm's reach. She couldn't stop. The moment she breached floor 87, a blinding crimson light exploded behind her. A deafening klaxon shattered the silence. Intruder! Intruder detected. No way out. Turning back was impossible. Tang Yinyin sprinted forward on all fours, ignoring the silver metal beneath her hands that was rapidly turning scalding hot. Ahead, the emergency hatch was closing. The air grew dangerously thin. Her face flushed purple, her lungs burning from severe oxygen deprivation. Black spots danced across her vision as her limbs lost all strength. Right at that moment, a violent crash shattered the ceiling above her. The vent wall was ripped open by brute force. A pair of bloody, lacerated hands reached inside, dragging her out into the open air. Tang Yinyin collapsed against Nie Gen's chest, coughing violently as air rushed back into her lungs. Her vision swam, but she managed to take in her surroundings. The room was a colossal metallic void packed with millions of glowing wires and central processing servers. Standing a few meters away was Yi Chen. The little girl was completely stationary. The back of her skull connected to a massive web of thick cables that snaked into a giant spaceship control panel. Her eyes were entirely hollow. Dead, her small hands manipulated the switches with mechanical precision. Behind the hem of her small red dress lay an endless, silent universe of stars. Tang Yinyin looked up. Stardust and nebulas dotted the Milky Way like tiny, glowing pinpricks. Darkness and a dead silence ruled this space. This entire black tower was actually the moving spaceship. Tang Yinyin stared in shock. Slowly, the dark mechanical eyes of Yi Chen flickered with a faint light as electricity surged through her circuits. As the little girl stood frozen, Nie Gen moved with lightning speed. He reached out and ripped a silver circuit chip straight from the control panel behind her neck. Instantly, Yi Chen's gaze turned completely vacant. She scanned the two intruders, her robotic voice repeating a broken phrase over and over. Apologies. The Blizzard Black Tower ship journey duration is currently 14,382 days, 21 hours, 18 minutes, and 27 seconds. Currently, no planets suitable for human habitation have been detected within 100 light-years. Human Preservation Project initiated. Mental imprints of surviving humans activated. Shared modes of the Black Tower. Prison, school, survival game, mental sanitarium. Current mode, mental mutation sanitarium. The mechanical words exploded in Tang Yinyin's mind. Every single clue instantly chained together, pointing to one terrifying truth. The Black Tower wasn't a facility for contaminated patients. It was a spaceship. It carried the survivors of a destroyed home planet, drifting through the void for 39 years and 4 months to find a new world. To maximize human survival, the leadership stamped a mental imprint onto every person thawed from cryostasis. They made the residents believe they were in a sanitarium. They were told they could only leave once they were cured. Tang Yinyin knit her brows. The theory made perfect sense. Whether it was serving a prison sentence, passing graduation exams, or surviving a game, it was all a ruse. The system fabricated goals just to give desperate people drifting through the void a shred of hope. In reality, every beautiful memory of the outside world was a manufactured illusion. Outside the hull of the Black Tower, there was only cold, dead space. For a dedicated psychiatrist like Yuan, who genuinely wanted to cure his patients, this truth was completely unacceptable. He had persevered for 12 years. He carried hope for 12 years. Yet on the literal eve of his dream becoming reality, he died a gruesome death. He had undoubtedly discovered the core secret of the tower. He realized the contamination mechanics were just a comforting lie to keep survivors from losing their minds. He realized getting cured and leaving was a fragile bubble. His entire belief system suffered a catastrophic collapse. Worse, if in that moment of absolute despair, Yuan discovered his beloved sister wasn't even human, but a machine hiding the truth, his final reason to live would vanish like ash. Remembering the stubborn fire in Yuan's eyes in his profile picture, and his brutal method of death to ensure no trace remained, Tang Yinyin took a deep breath. Her deduction was flawless. Yuan refused to remain caged inside this metal hull. He refused to be recycled and memory wiped again. He chose to burn himself to ash to achieve absolute, permanent freedom. Tang Yinyin communicated with 033. I want to submit the mission answer now. A system interface materialized before her eyes. Before she could input the data, a rough hand clamped down on her wrist. Nie Gen stared at her with burning golden irises. His voice thick and raspy. Are you leaving? Tang Yinyin froze. He asked her in a fragile, quiet whisper. Can you stay? Can you stay by my side? A sharp pang hit her heart. She had never seen Nie Gen look so deeply insecure. She slowly squeezed his hand back. You are coming with me. I will never abandon you. Nie Gen clenched his jaw, his breathing turning heavy and ragged. A muffled groan of agonizing terror escaped his throat. He didn't let go of her hand, nor did he pull her into his arms. He simply gritted his teeth, a profound wave of grief pooling in his honey-gold eyes. Even if it was a 1 in a million chance, what if he wasn't her real Nie Gen? After a long silence, he abruptly released her hand, pressing a black-scaled dagger into her palm. He twitched an eyebrow, forcing a rogue smirk. How about this? Gouge my heart out before you leave. Consider it a wedding gift for you and your real Nie Gen. Tang Yinyin. She took a step forward and threw herself into his chest, her left arm wrapped around his back, while her right hand gripped the dagger tightly. If you can't leave, I will die right here with you. Feeling Nie Gen slowly lock his arms around her waist, Tang Yinyin closed her eyes. She summoned the system panel once more, typing in the words, Yihuan committed suicide. Friendly reminder. The current mission world allows only a single submission attempt. Please confirm your answer. Tang Yinyin, I confirm. The moment she spoke, a brilliant silver array erupted beneath their feet. Through the hazy mist, Tang Yinyin saw Yichen standing a few meters away. The machine girl seemed to register the truth of Yihuan's death. Her lifeless black pupils whirled, staring out toward the endless, silent galaxy. Huge droplets of dark machine oil spilled from her synthetic eyes. Opening her mouth, she let out a piercing, agonizing wail that sounded entirely human. That sharp, agonizing wail still echoed in Tang Yinyin's ears, carrying a heavy, suffocating weight of absolute despair. Her consciousness swam. When she finally regained clarity, her eyelids felt like blocks of lead. She was lying on something incredibly soft. Yinyin, you're finally back. An ecstatic voice rang inside her head. 021 squeaked, if you stayed out any longer, Nie Gen was going to completely lose his mind. Tang Yinyin, didn't Nie Gen's consciousness travel into the mission world with her? Why was he going crazy in reality? Filled with doubt, she fluttered her long eyelashes, trying desperately to open her eyes. But her body felt entirely drained. She failed multiple times. Seeing her struggle, 021 quickly uploaded an image directly into her brain. It was a live snapshot of her current situation. She was lying flat on a colossal quartz stone bed. Beneath her body was a plush, crimson feather blanket embroidered with a pair of golden dragons and phoenixes tightly entwined. She wore a fragile layer of red silk, underneath which was a traditional Chinese wedding gown. However, the outer layer had been torn to shreds, leaving only the tattered bodice and skirt that exposed patches of her pale, porcelain skin. Surrounding the bed were piles of animal fur, horns, twisted vines, and strange stones. Each item was arranged in a bizarre ritualistic pattern, carved with protective blessings. Furthermore, her current location wasn't inside the base city, nor was it at home. She was suspended mid-air. Nie Gen had somehow woven a massive nest out of tree branches and wild vines directly onto the face of a sheer, vertical cliff. He hoisted a quartz bed into the structure, placing her body right inside. Even knowing he was a non-human entity, this feral behavior was utterly mind-blowing. 021. Do you know why Nie Gen did this? Tang Yinyin asked internally. 021 replied, he thinks you're dead. He organized a wedding ceremony in advance. He's planning to wait until your body completely stops breathing so he can commit suicide and sleep eternally beside you in this nest. Tang Yinyin, she stunned for a moment, then a sudden thought hit her. She asked urgently, when I entered the mission, Nie Gen's consciousness followed me. Didn't his physical body fall into a coma here? No, Yinyin, 021 explained. The time ratio between the mission world and reality is 1:1. Plus, the dimensional transit took 10 hours. You have been gone for nearly 2 days. Furthermore, you entered the mission with your entire soul. The system only maintained your basic metabolic functions here. To him, you looked like an empty, soulless corpse. Tang Yinyin, the main system was an absolute trap. Thank goodness she took risks to finish the mission quickly. If she had actually stayed inside the Black Tower for an entire month, she would have returned to a completely psychotic grand villain. An amnesiac Tai Gan jealous of his own shadow was terrifying enough. If he went completely feral, she wouldn't even know how to manage him. Fortunately, she was back. Before she could even inspect her achievements and rewards, Tang Yinyin tried to wiggle her fingers, desperate to wake up. 021 comforted her. Don't panic, Yinyin. Returning from a mission causes a mandatory 1-hour physical paralysis. Nie Gen is currently reabsorbing his split consciousness. For now, he isn't showing signs of immediate self-harm. Don't worry, Tang Yinyin. The more the system spoke, the more panicked she became. But 021 wasn't lying. Her body refused to respond to her commands. Helpless, she decided to review her mission rewards first. Greetings, host. Due to your outstanding performance in this A-grade mission, combined with a glowing recommendation from System Manager 033, you have been awarded 5,000 plus 250 system points. Congratulations to your System 021 for graduating from intern status to an official, certified system. As the bonus reward settled, 021 squealed with excitement. Yinyin, your total balance is now 6,128 points. You can buy so many A-grade items now. Plus, you earned a free spin on the premium prize wheel. Tang Yinyin felt a surge of excitement. The premium wheel contained incredible loot. Back then, her upgradable B-grade spatial dimensions with spiritual spring water was pulled from a lucky drop on that very wheel. The second reward is the chronological order of the upcoming environmental disasters for this world. 021 laid out the main system file before her eyes. Warning: the current world is experiencing an extremely unstable apocalyptic phase. Natural disaster forecasts can only project 1 month in advance. The disaster striking in 10 days is extreme cold wave. Estimated duration: over 20 days. Seeing the text, Tang Yinyin paused, a sense of grim validation wash over her. From the moment that unpredicted tornado swept Lu Chengyi away, the plot of the original spiritual spring space novel had completely shattered. The subsequent disasters were going to turn entirely unpredictable. Due to your exceptional performance, you have received an exclusive discount coupon worth 50,000 system points. Please use it with caution. Tang Yinyin asked 021, does this coupon mean if I buy an item worth 60,000 points, the system automatically deducts 50,000? Exactly, Yinyin, but if you buy an item that only costs 40,000 points, the remaining 10,000 points will not be refunded. It simply vanishes. Tang Yinyin, her sudden dream of getting rich by buying a 10-point item and pocketing 49,990 points in cash instantly evaporated into thin air. However, she didn't lose heart. In fact, she was thrilled. This mission run yielded a massive harvest. Just the points alone totaled over 5,000. 021 shed its intern status, gaining S-grade clearance. Moving forward, tracking Nie Gen's location or logging into the host forums to trade would be a breeze. Seeing that her body still required 10 minutes to thaw, Tang Yinyin asked 021, can 50,000 points completely cure Nie Gen's legs? Like restoring his full power from before his legs were broken? She didn't just want to stop the bleeding. She wanted his legs fully healed, regenerated to their absolute peak. 021 ran a quick database search before answering in a small voice. You are short by 750,000 points. Tang Yinyin thought she had misheard. How many points did you say? 750,000 points. 021 repeated. Tang Yinyin, why was it so expensive? Were medical treatments always this exorbitant? She thought about it and asked, if I broke my own legs and wanted the system to fully regenerate them, how many points would it cost? 021 replied instantly, 800 points. Tang Yinyin, the biological gap between a human and Big Can was a literal canyon. She refused to give up. Then if I pool every single point I own right now, how much can we heal Nie Gen's legs? 021 hesitated for a second. If you only want to grow his legs back without restoring his raw power, it requires roughly 80,000 points. Hearing that astronomical number, Tang Yinyin felt a wave of despair. It was too high. Even if she threw in her entire haul from this mission, she was still short by over 20,000 points. Where on earth was she supposed to farm that much currency? Even if she sold her individual skills every single day, she would only pull in 5,000 to 6,000 points a month. She would have to hoard for at least another half a year to stand a chance. Single relevant follow-up question. Would you like to proceed to the moment Tang Yinyin finally wakes up in the cliffside nest to stop Nie Gen from hurting himself? 021 chimed in, eager to please. Yinyin, you can totally do this. Just heal Nie Gen's bones first. I checked the database. Growing back the bones and half the flesh costs only 50,000 points. Tang Yinyin, wouldn't that still be incredibly painful? Ouch. She sighed internally, preparing to try her luck on a premium prize wheel to flip some items for extra points. Right at that moment, a bone-chilling gust of wind slapped her face, the light fading behind her eyelids. The sky seemed to drop gentle ice crystals, melting against her skin and triggering a sensitive, involuntary shiver. A massive shadow loomed directly over her, accompanied by heavy, chaotic breathing. They were clearly suspended high in midair. Yet Tang Yinyin suddenly felt the distinct terror of being targeted by a wild beast. She fluttered her long eyelashes frantically. The man's rough fingertips slowly traced her sensitive lips. His thumb and forefinger clamped her chin, forcing her rosy lips slightly open. Nie Gen sat on the edge of the crystal bed. His short black hair cast dark shadows over his eyes. A cold, menacing smirk curled on his handsome lips. He was smiling, but his striking facial features were dropping into a dark, dangerous scowl. His tone was lazy. However, it carried a sky-high, suffocating wave of jealousy. He gritted his teeth, sounding like he wanted to eat her alive. I wasn't around, so you went ahead and slept with Tai Gan, huh? Tang Yinyin. Nie Gen leaned down. His fingertips and tongue breached her lips simultaneously. teasing the tip of her tongue. He let out a freezing sneer. He even stole a kiss right here. A violent shudder ran down Tang Yinyin's spine. She instantly disconnected her mental link with 021. Her legs trembled uncontrollably. She wept internally, desperate to open her eyes. This grand villain was completely irrational. Both versions were literally him. What kind of crazy drama was he staging now? Unfortunately, her body was severely frozen. She struggled for a long time, only managing to wiggle her fingertips, grope her blindly through the dark. Her hand finally brushed against a piece of smooth, flowing silk. Tang Yinyin hooked her fingers, pulling the fabric aside. She genuinely believed she had successfully tugged the grand villain's sleeve, touching his hot arm that was currently bulging with veins from sheer fury. She immediately began tracing characters on the surface like a pleading captive. She tried desperately to explain and reason with him. She wanted to tell him she knew Tai Gan was him from the very start. Besides, she was fast asleep at night. The one stealing kisses was obviously him. How could Tai Gan act so righteously indignant? But as she kept writing, why did the grand villain's breathing turn so ragged and raspy? Moreover, she was only touching his arm. Why was he getting this excited, sweating this profusely? Tang Yinyin's intuition screamed that something was wrong. She tried to yank her hand back, but a massive palm like an iron vise clamped down, blocking her escape. Nie Gen was stimulated to the point that his tail first stood on end. The silver triangular ears on his head twitched frantically. He bit down savagely on her fingertip. He didn't use much force, but he ground his teeth, his deep voice dropping into a sultry, raspy growl. "You teased my Tai Gan. And you call that an apology?" The gentle bite on her sensitive finger sent a sharp spark straight up her spine. The tiny bit of strength she had managed to gather instantly drained away. Her long eyelashes fluttered violently. It took her an eternity to process what Nie Gen actually meant. Teased his Tai Gan. When did she ever touch that? This man was utterly shameless. She was clearly just writing words on his arm. Wait, could the spot she was writing on actually be? The realization hit her. Tang Yinyin felt her blood freeze for a fraction of a second before it rushed straight to her face. Within seconds, her cheeks burned a vibrant, mortified crimson. Her ears flushed bright red. No wonder the texture felt completely wrong the more she wrote. "Why did you stop writing?" Nie Gen's breathing was completely unhinged. He grabbed Tang Yinyin's hand, his fingers deliberately caressing her smooth, delicate wrist. "Am I not satisfying you enough? Do you need to bring Tai Gan out to finish the job?" Tang Yinyin. She wanted to fire back, but her body remained stiff. Her lips were forced slightly open, leaving her unable to swallow or utter a single syllable. Nie Gen systematically nipped through all 10 of her fingers. He demanded fiercely, "Will you hold Tai Gan's hand ever again?" He didn't wait for her response. Releasing his grip on her chin, he crashed his lips down before she could close her mouth. He used his breath to ruthlessly erase every single trace belonging to Tai Gan. Tang Yinyin could feel it. He was blinded by jealousy, driven entirely insane. Though the kiss maintained a shred of gentleness, it was no longer a superficial peck. It felt like a dominant, sweeping mountain storm. She was a wildflower caught in a vortex. No matter how she twisted, she couldn't escape the onslaught. She was thoroughly tangled and crushed, her breath and vitality entirely seized. Nie Gen pinned her down, kissing her fiercely before nipping at her lips again. His rough hands locked around her back. He looked ready to literal kiss her to death right there on the bed. Tang Yinyin completely lost her rhythm. She could only survive on the oxygen he fed her, her small face flushing a deep crimson. Tears leaked continuously from the corners of her eyes, vanishing into her thick black hair. After what felt like an eternity, her hands finally thawed. She struggled, hammering her fists against Nie Gen's broad, sturdy back, begging him to let her go. A large palm slid over her eyes, blocking her vision. Nie Gen planted 2 more aggressive kisses before finally pulling back. The breath he'd exhaled against her cheek carried an undeniable, raw passion. His voice was thick, raspy, and deeply affectionate. "Yinyin, I missed you. I missed you to the point of madness." The blunt confession echoed in her ear. Tang Yinyin trembled. The embarrassment and anger sparked by the aggressive kiss suddenly stalled in her chest. She couldn't speak, and she couldn't bring herself to hate him. Warm droplets slipped through the gaps of Nie Gen's fingers, landing on her eyelashes and eyelids. They felt like scorching tears, bringing a strange, aching pang to her heart. Tang Yinyin's irritation vanished completely. She stopped fighting the grand villain, gently wrapping her arms around his back instead. "Brother Nie Gen, I missed you too." Granted, they hadn't been separated for very long. She didn't actually miss him that desperately. But the atmosphere was too heavy, and Tai Gan was literally crying. Failing to reciprocate would just be cruel. Unexpectedly, the moment the words left her mouth, Nie Gen let out a cold snort. You woke up and immediately punched me. Is that how you miss me? Tang Yinyin. This man was a master at twisting reality. Her swollen lips letter 1E5 May as she sighed, utterly speechless. Then you tell me, brother Nie Gen. What do I have to do to prove I missed you? Hearing this, the 9 fluffy silver tails behind Nie Gen wagged frantically. He seemed to deliberate for ages before murmuring bashfully, Call me? He didn't finish the sentence. But Tang Yinyin caught on instantly. Without a shred of hesitation, she called out, Husband. Nie Gen stiffened as if hit by a massive electric surge. His face flushed scarlet, his eyes turned bloodshot. Her snow-white skin looked incredibly soft and delicate against the vibrant red wedding gown. He tried his absolute best to maintain the dignified composure of the Wuyan mountain god. Nie Gen nodded stiffly, immensely satisfied with the title. He hid his joy, forcing a cold, stern expression to bait her into pouring out more sweet words. However, Tang Yinyin didn't fall for the trap. Fearing he would go back on his word, she said softly, Husband, you're pressing my eyes too hard. It hurts. Can you take your hand away? Nie Gen. His face darkened instantly. The silver triangular ears on his head twitched with irritation, flattening into angry airplane ears before pinning back completely. The smooth, silver-white velvet fur on them ruffled in the wind, looking incredibly touchable. Nie Gen's golden irises glared at Tang Yinyin. After a long standoff, he finally retracted his ears and tails with great reluctance. He waited a brief moment, ensuring his features returned to a normal human appearance before lifting his hand from her eyes. Her vision finally returned. Tang Yinyin opened her eyes immediately, only to see Nie Gen kneeling on one knee beside the crystal bed, looking a total mess. He wore the brilliant red groom's suit for the wedding, yet the fabric was mysteriously shredded, hanging off his frame in tatters. The gentle breeze shifted the cloth, exposing patches of gorgeous, bronzed muscle. His trousers weren't worn properly either. His prosthetic leg rested on the crystal mattress while his long right leg anchored him to the ground. The silk sash she had inadvertently pulled was skewed to the side, making him look like a wild beast draped in rags. Worse, Nie Gen looked incredibly gloomy, radiating pure hostility. Who knew what kind of dark scenarios he had concussed over the last 2 days? His handsome, normally arrogant face lacked any trace of its usual openness. Heavy, dark circles bruised the skin beneath his long brows, making his sharp features look dangerously deep. The corners of his eyes were flushed red. His dark pupils reflected her image. A deep, fresh cut scored his cheek near the eyelid, slowly leaking blood that mingled with his hot sweat. The sight partially obscured the glittering heart-shaped earring on his left ear, giving him a tragic, beautiful aura of brokenness. Tang Yinyin stared at the sexy mole on his lip. She forced her soft waist to move, sitting up slightly. She reached out, hovering her fingers over the wound beneath his eye. Brother Nie Gen, how did you let yourself get like this? The grand villain used to be quite particular about cleanliness. Aside from their early days when they weren't close and he wore basic jackets and jeans, he had become highly conscious of his image. He rotated sharp suits every 2 days or rocked trendy outfits, switching his earrings constantly. Even when resources were tight, he always made sure to look cool in front of her. This was the first time he looked this disheveled. Hearing her words, Nie Gen looked down at his current state, then at the faint smile on Tang Yinyin's face. His handsome features contorted with rage, but very quickly a thought seemed to strike him. He suddenly arched an eyebrow at her. If you don't like the clothes, should I just strip them all off? Tang Yinyin. She feigned ignorance, shifting her body to slide off the bed. Right at that moment she realized that while her dress looked fine resting flat, any movement risked a major wardrobe malfunction. Forget running away. Walking a few steps would cause the entire outfit to disintegrate and slip right off. Most alarming of all, why did the ties on her inner silk bodice feel incredibly loose? The sensation of slipping silk was too distinct to ignore. Tang Yinyin couldn't bring herself to address it openly. She quickly lay back down, pretending to scratch and itch while frantically trying to secure the knot tightly behind her back. Seeing her lie back down, Nie Gen assumed she felt unwell. Suppressing his erratic emotions, he said hoarsely, Yinyin, are you hungry? I'll fetch you something to eat. He completely ignored his own ravenous hunger, turning around to plunge back into the thick fog. Tang Yinyin panicked. She grabbed him with one hand while her other hand frantically wrestled with the loosening silk behind her. Brother Nie Gen, I'm not hungry. Where exactly are we? Can you take me home instead? She had scanned their surroundings upon waking. It was roughly 4 or 5 in the afternoon. Deep fog blanketed the high peak, but the sunlight filtering through was gorgeous. The mountain air felt crisp and cool, the perfect temperature to lounge beneath a feather duvet without overheating. Nie Gen had apparently brought her to the highest peak. They were on a cleared plateau spanning over 200 square meters. The nest he constructed was massive, easily covering 60 to 70 square meters. The edge of the nest featured partial partitions woven from branches and vines arching over the crystal bed to shield it from rain. However, it wasn't fully enclosed. A slight glance upward revealed the vast, romantic expanse of the open sky. Occasionally, bizarrely shaped clouds drifted past like curious eyes, creating a vague, intimate atmosphere primed for some highly embarrassing public scenarios. Hearing her request, Nie Gen's tone turned incredibly dangerous. "You want to go home?" Tang Yinyin quickly managed the damage. "I want to go to the home where you are." Only then did Nie Gen smirk. He spun around and sat on the edge of the mattress. "Come here, I'll carry you back." He had carried her up the mountain in his beast form. To keep the location hidden, he had constructed an incredibly narrow suspension bridge. Tang Yinyin was terrified of heights. Navigating that path alone was an absolute impossibility. Nie Gen fully intended to scare her a little on the bridge as punishment for her complete lack of vigilance around Taigan. But the moment his eyes landed on her slender legs and soft gaze, his harsh words instantly melted into pure tenderness. Tang Yinyin flashed him a gentle smile, nodding softly. "Okay." She anchored the red string behind her back with one hand while leaning against the soft fur with the other, slowly dragging herself toward the grand villain. She rarely wore such revealing clothing on regular days, always making sure her pajamas were fully buttoned before sleep. Now, the messy wedding gown shifted continuously before his eyes. Nie Gen's face turned scorching hot, his heart hammered furiously, and his very soul caught fire. What happens next when they cross the terrifying suspension bridge? Nie Gen sat perfectly straight on the edge of the crystal bed, pretending to be unbothered. He looked entirely severe, trying to show he was still furious and needed plenty of coaxing. Tang Yinyin felt an urge to laugh. She ignored his bright red ears and threw herself directly into the grand villain's arms. With his dream girl close, Nie Gen inhaled sharply. He shoved his chaotic thoughts aside, struggling to maintain a clear head. He controlled his breathing, wrapping his large hand around her waist to lift her up. Right at that moment, a violent gust of wind swept across the mountain peak, whipping their clothes furiously. A few white feathers scattered from the crystal bed. Tang Yinyin squeezed her eyes shut, coughing twice from the freezing draft. Her hand behind her back slipped for just a second. She didn't realize anything was wrong at first, but when she reached back again, the loose red silk ties were gone. A cold sensation slid down her neck and across her chest. Tang Yinyin opened her eyes through the blinding wind. She saw a flash of red silk embroidered with mandarin ducks flying away, snagging on a branch at the edge of the nest. Tang Yinyin, her cheeks exploded into a burning crimson. Her brain short-circuited entirely. The calm exterior she had fought to maintain shattered into pieces. She lunged down to grab the feather blanket, but since they were both sitting squarely on top of it, the heavy covers refused to budge. "What's wrong?" Hearing Nie Gen's deep voice, Tang Yinyin panicked. She lunged forward like water crashing into a rock, slamming directly into his chest. Tears of sheer mortification welled in her eyes. She slapped both hands over his face, desperately trying to divert his attention. "Brother Nie Gen, why is your body hard as a rock?" "Nie Gen," Tang Yinyin squeaked, "your muscles are too stiff." Nie Gen, his long eyelashes twitched. He squeezed her waist, only to realize the skin under his palm felt completely bare. He grabbed her wrists to pull her hands away from his eyes, but she let out a broken, tearful sob. "Brother Nie Gen, please don't open your eyes." An explosion went off in Nie Gen's brain. His spine turned rigid. He ground out a raspy, "Okay." Tang Yinyin let out a sigh of relief. Unexpectedly, Nie Gen went back on his word a second later, scooping her straight up into his arms. He used only one arm to lock around her waist. If she didn't want him to see her, and if she didn't want to fall, she had to pay a heavy price. Tang Yinyin was forced to wrap her arms around his neck, locking her legs tightly around his torso. She hung completely suspended on his frame. The position made everything 10 times more awkward. She deeply regretted not diving under the blanket the second he let her go. Now, it was too late. She strained every muscle to maintain the exhausting hold, keeping herself from falling while desperately keeping his eyes covered. Nie Gen grew instantly excited. He played dumb, acting as if he noticed absolutely nothing as he marched out of the nest. His stride was wide and fast. Every step forced Tang Yinyin to cling to him tighter, her bare skin flushing against his freezing, rock-hard chest. Thick fog rolled everywhere. She couldn't see the suspension bridge at all. Realizing he was marching straight toward the edge of the abyss, she cried out, Brother Nie Gen, stop, we're going to fall. Nie Gen grunted, you are covering my eyes. I can't see the path. Tang Yinyin. She hesitated for ages. Walk slower. When we get close, I'll tell you which way to turn. Nie Gen let out a low, rumbling chuckle. Fine. He slowed his pace. Tang Yinyin sensed something was slightly off, but she was too distracted to think. Her entire focus was split between blinding him, holding on for dear life, and scanning the cliffside. Who would have thought the peak looked small, but the walk felt endless. He marched her in circles for over half a lap. Not only did the suspension bridge fail to appear, but the sight of the bottomless chasm left her legs completely weak. Her arms throbbed with exhaustion. When they eventually circled right back to the crystal bed, Tang Yinyin realized there was no bridge. Her grip failed completely. She slid down his body, a wave of profound embarrassment and grievance crashing over her. Even a fool could tell the grand villain did this on purpose. Unbelievable. Her eyelashes trembled as fat tears spilled from her eyes. Refusing to let him see her face, she buried her head into his shoulder. Nie Gen's heart melted at her tears. His large hand scooped under her thighs, while his other hand ripped the silk sheet from the crystal bed, wrapping it securely around her frame. He pulled her flesh against his chest, leaning down to lick the tears from her eyes. All right, don't cry. I don't mind at all. In fact, I love it. Besides, who do you think changed you into those clothes in the first place? Tang Yinyin. Her eyes snapped open in absolute shock. Furious and mortified, she clutched the sheet, trying to tear herself away from his body. However, the grand villain gave a low laugh, his foot tapping a hidden mechanism near the base of the bed. The world spun. He tumbled with her onto the plush feather mattress as the entire crystal structure began to descend into the mountain. Tang Yinyin felt a strange sensation of weightlessness. She couldn't help but ask, Brother Nie Gen, did you build a trapdoor into the nest? Before she could get an answer, his lips crashed onto hers. Something freezing yet incredibly sweet was pushed straight into her mouth. She was forced to swallow it down, her cheeks burning like wildfire. She looked up. Nie Gen was staring down at her with consuming passion, his hands anchoring him on either side of her head. His long, dark eyelashes hovered inches away, blinking against her skin in a deeply suggestive rhythm. Hot sweat dripped from his face, landing on her collarbone like boiling tears. Her heart swelled with a strange warmth. Completely dazed by his lethal charm, she lifted her head to plant a soft kiss on his lips. The moment the kiss broke, a violent numbness paralyzed her entire frame. She realized the sweet liquid he fed her was anything but normal. Through the hazy fog in her mind, she saw Nie Gen's eyes turn pitch black. A terrible intuition flared within her. She tried to bolt, but he effortlessly hauled her back under his heavy frame. Nie Gen smirked, his voice raw and gravelly. Yinyin, didn't you promise we would get married the moment you came back? Are you going back on your word? Tang Yinyin wanted to scream yes, but she could see as Nie Gen was literally starving to the point of tears. Tang Yinyin, she stayed silent, intending to placate him with some sweet talk like she always did. But before she could open her mouth to beg, the grand villain smothered her lips in another suffocating kiss. The next second, the descending crystal bed suddenly accelerated. A terrifying sense of weightlessness combined with a mountain of rock-hard, non-human muscle crashed over her with brutal intensity. Her breath was completely stolen. Before her eyes, the sheer cliff walls blurred past against a deep blue sky. A blinding flash of white light exploded in her vision, her ears filling with nothing but the howling, soul-snatching mountain wind. Inside the cavernous, hidden grotto, long-lasting dragon and phoenix wedding candles flickered. An air conditioner hummed softly in the background, casting dim, suggestive shadows across the stone walls. The cave ceiling rose to an impossible height. The daylight filtering in from outside was swallowed by the dark rock, save for a few stray beams piercing a massive pane of one-way glass. The light pooled directly over a custom hot spring dug into the quartz floor. The water was crystal clear, steam rising lazily against the polished stone banks. The pool wasn't deep, barely reaching a meter, revealing a smooth, pristine quartz bottom. Woven vine handrails and storage baskets lined the edges. The craftsmanship was flawless. One look, and you knew it came from the hands of Nie Gen. Too bad the basket with the lid didn't contain a single scrap of clothing. The tattered remnants of Tang Yinin's wedding gown had all ended up in the water. Several torn shreds of vibrant red silk drifted aimlessly on the rippling surface, the gold-embroidered dragons violently ripped apart by brute force. A plush white fur carpet stretched for dozens of meters from the edge of the pool to a bedroom blocked by a heavy pearl curtain. It was the kind of luxurious, thick rug that begged you to roll around on it. Right now, however, the long fibers were completely soaked, clumping together in heavy, waterlogged patches. In several spots, The white fur had been violently ripped from the floorboards. Stray tufts rolled across the carpet like tumbleweeds in the draft, drifting into puddles or floating aimlessly through the damp air, adding a wild, chaotic touch of romance to the scene. Near the pearl curtain, right against the sheer rock face, stood a towering swing crafted from expensive mahogany. It hung nearly the meter and a half off the ground, suspended by thick ropes from a beam 3 meters high. The narrow cradle lacked any side rails for support. The seat was lined with pristine, untouched white feathers. Underneath the swing, the floor was covered in fresh rose petals. They curled lonely on the mat, seemingly waiting for an audience to appreciate them. The sun dipped below the horizon, but the echo inside the hollow cavern never stopped. The wind from the cliff crevices occasionally rattled the pearl curtain, creating a crisp, jade-like clinking that mingled with faint, broken sobs. The sounds were soft, raspy, and easily mistaken for an illusion of the mountain breeze. Tang Yinyin was entirely drained, her long eyelashes clumped with tears. Her consciousness drifted on waves of haze, her eyes glazed as white flashes burst across her vision. She stared blankly at the high cavern roof draped in festive red silk banners, her body trembling continuously like a live wire under Nie Gen's dominant assault. Driven by sheer survival instinct, she weakly raised her aching hands to push at his chest, desperate to banish the grand villain to the ends of the earth. But ever since she swallowed that golden seed back in Prayer Valley, the mountain had apparently granted his deepest wish to permanently mark her as his own. On regular days, his intense kissing and hugging left her slightly overwhelmed. This was on a completely different scale. She had no idea what freezing, sweet draft he had forced down her throat earlier. She only knew her entire body felt hypersensitive. Her cheeks burned crimson. She desperately wanted to pass out, yet her mind remained frustratingly sharp, and she felt almost zero physical pain. She remembered every single filthy, possessive word he whispered, every bruising kiss, and every grueling detail of this endless marathon. Tang Yinyin felt like a soft cloud being molded by his hands. She was a piece of soft timber, and Nie Gen was treating her like a master canvas, hacking and carving away to shape her into his ideal masterpiece. Unfortunately, this non-human entity possessed an absurdly high demand for artistic perfection. After shedding his initial clumsy awkwardness, he experimented hundreds of times. Feeling unsatisfied, he would alter his angle, shift his depth, and rapidly decide the location required a fresh, creative breakthrough. Consequently, whether it was tasting the terrifying sensation of freefall from the trapdoor or swaying against the sloshing waves of the hot spring, Tang Yinyin had completely broken down, weeping and begging for mercy. Yet he only ever gathered fleeting moments of satisfaction. Finally, sensing his little flower was reaching her absolute physical limit, he showed a shred of monstrous mercy. He locked her into a position that required none of her strength, finding the absolute perfect angle to finish his masterpiece. Then he went completely feral. Tang Yinyin had never realized a truth more clearly than in this exact moment. Nie Gen was an absolute monster. Spacing out, a raspy, dangerously attractive murmur echoed above her head. Nie Gen leaned down to crush his lips against hers, his beautiful, heavy muscles dripping with hot sweat that rained down on her skin. The beast refused to let the little flower he dragged into his nest look anywhere else. He reaped his harvest over and over. Tang Yinyin's pupils dilated before being forced to refocus on his dark eyes. Huge tears tumbled from her face. When a rough, calloused palm suddenly clamped over her mouth, she realized what he wanted. She bit her lip until it bled, refusing to let an embarrassing sound escape her throat. Nie Gen took a deep, ragged breath, peppering her burning cheeks with dense kisses. Yinyin, you are going to be the absolute death of me. Hearing his shameless complaint, Tang Yinyin trembled with pure rage, forcing her swollen lips open. You get out. Nie Gen's ears burned bright red, his lips a vibrant crimson. He growled softly fine. Tang Yinyin blinked through her tears, stunned. She used her fractured logic to guess whether he was lying. A few times earlier, when she truly couldn't take it anymore, Nie Gen had actually paused. She had used those brief gaps to stammer out explanations about the Black Tower, explaining it was all a mandatory system mission. She told him Tai Gan was literally a fragment of his own subconscious mind, trying desperately to bring him back to sanity. The grand villain deliberately ignored her pleas. He broke his word, acting completely shameless. He looked down and saw her flushed cheeks, tear-stained lashes, and the marks he left on her pale skin. He was losing control again. He gritted his teeth, forcing back the primal urge to transform into his beast shape. He straightened his back, enduring a suffocating silence to suppress the overwhelming desires that threatened to consume Tang Yinyin entirely. Nie Gen finally calmed down. The madness faded from his narrow eyes. He'd exhaled slowly, Before he could speak, he noticed Tang Yinyin's breathing grew shallow and rapid. Her tears fell without stopping. She was completely breaking down. Brother Nie Gen, why it is stuck. An explosion went off in Nie Gen's brain. His gaze turned incredibly dark. He played dumb, adoptional lazy tone. You are the one keeping me here. I will give you 1 more minute. If you still do not let me go, I am never leaving. Tang Yinyin. She wanted to die of embarrassment. There was no way to argue. She tried to shift away, but it only made things worse. Furious and mortified, she almost unblocked System 021 to ask for a solution. Reading her mind, Nie Gen raised his eyelids. I have an idea. Want to try? Tang Yinyin whimpered, what? The words barely left her mouth before he scooped her into his lap. She instinctively locked her arms around his neck. He carried her straight out of the bedroom toward the hot spring. Tang Yinyin bit her lip. Looking at the water, she let out a tiny sigh of relief. The grand villain was finally showing mercy. Or so she thought. She didn't get to feel relieved for long. Nie Gen bypassed the pool entirely, marching straight to the far side of the massive grotto. Her voice trembled. Brother Nie Gen, where are we going? Nie Gen didn't answer. He used actions to explain. They were going to the mahogany swing. The moment she saw the high frame, Tang Yinyin lost it. She had no idea her body was locked to his in a knot. She thrashed to escape, but it was useless. Weeping bitterly, she was forced onto the swing. Nie Gen kicked off the ground with immense force. The world went vertical. She soared into the air, the intense friction against his rock-hard frame leaving her completely dazed. The final thread of her sanity snapped, and she plunged into a chaotic blackness. When Tang Yinyin opened her eyes again, rain was pitter-pattering outside. The droplets left beautiful patterns on the glass ceiling. She was half reclining in Nie Gen's arms, resting on a clean fur rug by the hot spring. The grand villain had finally stopped his torment. He carried a wooden basin from the bedroom, filled it with warm spring water, and wrung out a towel to clean her up. Tang Yinyin's face was deathly pale. Her body felt like jelly. She instinctively shrank back, pulling a soft sheet from her space storage to wrap herself from head to toe. Nie Gen, he was drenched in sweat. The corners of his eyes flushed a deep red. He ignored her pulling away, his voice dripping with terrifying sweetness. Yinyin, you are awake. Hearing his voice made her shudder uncontrollably. The wild memories rushed back, turning her pale cheeks bright crimson all over again. She clutched the fabric tightly, remaining silent. Regret washed over her. Why did she agree to marry this monster? Was her brain broken, or did he cast a spell on her? They were barely married, and he was already like this. Survival felt impossible. Nie Gen murmured, I just want to help you wash up. Tang Yinyin spoke weakly, right, you only wanted a kiss. You only wanted 1 bite. You only wanted to cry once. The overlord who had wept multiple times stayed silent. Faced with his little wife's accusations, Nie Gen knew he was in the wrong. He licked his sharp canine tooth. Are you sure you do not need help? Tang Yinyin was absolute. No. Get out. Nie Gen. He frowned, setting the towel beside her. He walked away, looking back with lingering reluctance at every single step. The moment he retreated into the bedroom, Tang Yinyin blinked her exhausted eyes. She forced her aching, useless waist to move, dragging herself inch by inch toward the water. With Nie Gen gone, she finally noticed her disastrous state. Her hair was matted with sweat, sticking to her cheeks. Her skin was covered in dark marks, her stamina completely spent. She pulled off the sheet, dipping her cramped legs into the pool. The warm water rose past her ankles, which were heavily bruised with his fingerprints. A soothing numbness spread up her spine. She hooked her fingers into the carpet, preparing to lower herself into the spring. Unexpectedly, a sudden wave of extreme fullness hit her lower abdomen. She curled her toes, looking down. Her stomach felt intensely bloated, as if she had overeaten. A slight press caused an unbelievable amount of fluid to spill down her thighs. Her face burned, acting like an ostrich. She plunged entirely into the water, wrapping herself in a towel to pretend she was an otter. But she lacked the instincts of a wild animal and could barely swim. Weak and exhausted, she slipped, nearly drowning in a pool that was barely a meter deep. She thrashed, splashing wildly while grabbing a vine handrail. Coughing violently, she felt more fluid escape her body with every movement. Her long lashes were soaked. Her swollen lips trembled as she glared at the grand villain, who had bolted back into the room at the sound of splashing. Her raspy voice cracked with pure mortification. Do not come near me. Nie Gen played deaf. He strode into the water, sitting 2 meters away to pretend he was just bathing. Tang Yinyin bit her lip, holding the vine with one hand and her towel with the other. Her pale legs cramped beneath the surface, tears welling in her eyes. Nie Gen's gaze darkened. He inhaled sharply, stepping forward to pull her into his chest. He didn't push his luck. Instead, he pulled out a strip of black cloth, tying it firmly over his own eyes. "I am not looking." His voice was gravelly. "Is this okay?" Tang Yinyin turned her head. Seeing the black blindfold was secure, she finally relaxed a fraction. "Do not move. Just hold me. I will do it myself." Nie Gen smirked, leaning directly against her ear. "But what if you cannot reach it?" Tang Yinyin. She wanted to blast him into orbit. The mountain drizzle lasted for over an hour. By the time total darkness fell, Tang Yinyin crawled out of the hot spring completely lifeless. The grand villain knew he had crossed a line. Aside from his non-human nature being hyperactive, he hadn't forced anything else on her. The true embarrassment was that she actually couldn't reach. She had to beg for his assistance. Though he was incredibly gentle, her energy was entirely gone. She nearly fainted in the water. Back on dry land, she dried off and changed into a thick, long-sleeved outfit. She intended to commandeer the entire bed, banishing Nie Gen to the floor. But as she reached the door, she glanced back at the pool. The crystal-clear water had turned completely cloudy, laced with an undeniable white haze. Her dignity shattered completely. Unable to face him, she let her limp body collapse, pretending to faint right at the threshold. She closed her eyes, listening to the water splash. Nie Gen dried himself casually, stroking her hair as he lifted her up. He stripped away the ruined dragon and phoenix sheets, replacing them with a fresh, pristine set. He placed her down gently, his rough lips pressed against her forehead, her eyelids, and her cheeks, sending a tiny spark through her before settling on her mouth. He didn't tease her further. He threw on his trousers and began quietly cleaning the chaotic grotto. Listening to the distant clattering, Tang Yinyin opened her system interface. System 021 panicked electronic voice blared instantly. "Yinyin, are you okay? You disappeared for 3 days." Tang Yinyin, she froze. 021, how long did you say I was gone? 021 wailed, "In 15 minutes, it will be exactly 72 hours. Tang Yinyin, 72 hours. Not 7, not 2. Unbelievable. Her immediate thought wasn't absolute panic, but a profound realization. Nie Gen was truly a beast. She had a vague recollection of the timeline. It started in the afternoon, followed by a blur of light and darkness. Then she had completely lost her concept of time before blacking out. Receiving no response, 021 ran a soul scan, gasping in surprise. "Oh, Yinyin, your soul power is completely restored." Tang Yinyin was stunned. Ever since she depleted her soul force to broadcast the apocalypse warning, she had been incredibly weak. Endless consumption of Lin Tu Y letter 1 EC1 and spring water had only bumped her stats from 105 to 110 points, nowhere near her baseline of 120. "Did the Black Tower mission reward me?" she asked. 021 replied, "No, you left the tower at 110. Now you are at 130 points. While she wondered if the freezing, sweet liquid Nie Gen fed her was the cause, 021 shouted, "I found the reason." "What is it?" 021 chirped, "It is Nie Gen's essence. Yinyin, your body absorbed it perfectly. That is why your soul healed. You should do that with Nie Gen way more often to buff your stats." Tang Yinyin, she played dumb, shutting down the interface in a fit of pure mortification. She buried her face into the pillow. Absorbing that? Ridiculous. It had to be the byproduct of some rare medicine he gave her. Shame consumed her thoughts until exhaustion pulled her into a deep, dreamless sleep. She didn't see what happened next. Once she was dead to the world, Nie Gen wagged his 9 fluffy tails. He walked over to the torn spots on the white carpet, plucked several clumps of fur from his own tails, and carefully matted them into the bare patches she had ripped up. Tang Yinyin slept for an eternity. When she finally woke up, the cave was gone. She was lying in the back of their familiar tricycle. She blinked, seeing Nie Gen pedaling furiously down the road. Tang Yinyin, she summoned 021, who confirmed she had slept for nearly 20 hours. They were currently traversing the second mountain ridge, closing in on her old cavern base. Woke up, Nie Gen noticed the shifting weight behind him. He skidded to a halt by the roadside, pulling up his shirt to wipe the sweat from his forehead. "Want some food?" He reached into the front basket, pulling out a lunchbox insulated with ice cubes. He handed it over. Tang Yinyin opened it. Inside lay a neat row of hard-boiled eggs, perfectly peeled and sliced into bite-sized pieces. Beside them sat chunks of vibrant red watermelon, every single seed meticulously removed. Boiled eggs and watermelon. Strange combination. Looking at the sweating man, she reached into her space storage, pulling out a portable neck fan and a chilled bottle of Lin Tu Weiler 1EC1 and spring water. Brother Nie Gen, drink some water. Though they were legally married, titles like husband still felt incredibly difficult to say out loud. Nie Gen didn't mind. He took the bottle, a blindingly sweet smile splitting his handsome face. His narrow black eyes locked onto her, his wild, dangerous expression melting completely. In that moment, his entire world contained nothing but her. Who would have thought a simple tricycle ride could feel this peaceful after a literal 3-day storm? Tang Yinyin's face burned with intense heat. She looked away, refusing to glance at him again. Leaving the lunchbox aside, she dashed behind a massive camphor tree to wash her face. The marks on her body had faded slightly. However, the vivid sensation of a foreign presence inside her remained painfully clear. Uncomfortable. Very uncomfortable. She quickly braided her long hair, securing it with a light blue tie. She adjusted her clothes, turned around, and immediately slammed into a solid chest. Ouch. The impact left her nose stinging and watery. She looked up at him with tearful eyes. Brother Nie Gen, what are you doing? Nie Gen stepped onto the muddy ground right behind her, his boots crushing the fallen leaves. There are bugs on the ground. He paused, adding with an entirely straight face, a very big one. Tang Yinyin. A cold shiver raced down her spine, raising instant goosebumps. She leaped away from the spot. Nie Gen casually kicked a non-existent threat into the bushes. It is gone now. He patted her back reassuringly. He acted as if she had just survived a massive fright. Tang Yinyin was completely speechless. Before she could utter a word, a rapid succession of heavy footsteps echoed from the distance. System 021 sounded an alarm in her mind. Yinyin, it is the male lead. Tang Yinyin crouched down instantly. She swiped her hand, storing the entire tricycle and their belongings into her pocket dimension. Then she scrambled backward, grabbing the grand villain who was about to step out. She leaned against his ear, whispering frantically, "Husband, someone is coming. Do not move." Hearing the rare title one she only used when she desperately wanted him to do something, Nie Gen's jagged eyebrow shot up. The beast developed a wicked idea. He wrapped a powerful arm around her waist, hoisting her frail body onto his lap. Then he leaned down and smothered her lips. Tang Yinyin. She was utterly stunned by the grand villain's sheer shamelessness. He pinched her waist, forcing her mouth to part as she was dragged into a suffocating, deep kiss. The footsteps drew closer. Tang Yinyin had to split her attention, listening to the outside world while her legs turned to jelly under his assault. "Is it safe to bury it here?" Unexpectedly, a lowered voice broke through the trees. "We risked our lives for this haul. If someone digs it up, we are done for. Relax. The most dangerous place is the safest place. Besides, who wanders into the deep woods during an apocalypse?" Lu Chengyi's voice cut through the air. "Damn it. I lost big this time. That bitchy Shiren actually dared to betray me. An unawakened healing type waste playing the delicate princess. She thinks I cannot live without her? Ridiculous." Lu Zihong chimed in eagerly. "Exactly. She called you heartless and accused you of ignoring human lives. As if she wasn't constantly jealous of Tang Yinyin, wishing Nie Gen would dump her. Now she wants to act pure and holy." Tang Yinyin's breathing grew ragged from the kiss. The moment Nie Gen finally released her, she panted softly, listening intently to the drama unfolding nearby. The story was messy. After the tornado passed, Yi Shire had condemned Lu Chengyi for pushing innocents into the storm to shield himself. Lu Chengyi, in turn, despised Yi Shire for being a useless parasite who only knew how to hide and judge him from a moral high ground. The two had screamed at each other for 3 days before breaking up permanently. Furious, Yi Shire took her younger sister, Yuxuan, and left the province to find relatives. Lu Chengyi had lost his cover since Yuxuan was his nominal space storage user. Left with a stash of stolen firearms from a recent riot, he gathered his loyal lackeys to bury the weapons, planning to retrieve them once the world descended into total chaos. "The base city moves fast," Lu Zihong muttered, digging. "Only 5 days, and they already built underground shelters with floor heating. I have no idea what they are planning." Lu Chengyi swung his shovel, preparing for future natural disasters obviously. Before the tornado, he would have mocked the government's efforts as useless anxiety. But now, with a trail of bodies behind him, the terrifying memory of dying in a mutant beast tied in his past life flooded his mind. His arrogance toward nature was completely gone. Right at that moment, a short, sullen man stopped digging. "Chengyi, after this, I am moving into the base city." 2 other men immediately chimed in. "Me too. I am planning to settle down there permanently. No more gang activity for me." Lu Chengyi's heart skipped a beat. He forced a fake smile. "Why? Aren't we doing great together?" The short man, Lu Qingqing, sighed. "We are. but the base city is safer than our village. Luthebold said you could predict the future, but that last tornado. He trailed off, but the implication was clear. Lu Chenyi's smile hardened. He hid his rage beneath a mask of casual understanding. No worries. It was my oversight. It is natural for the brothers to have doubts. He kept his head down, digging furiously. However, a murderous chill flared in his eyes. They couldn't leave. Only this inner circle of relatives knew about the weapons stash. He had trusted them, yet they wanted to abandon him. If they walked away, the secret of his weapons would inevitably leak out. He let out a silent, icy sneer. Reaching into his hidden spatial dimension, he quietly loaded a pistol, while his palm gathered his metal system awakened abilities. He planned to slaughter all 5 of them the moment the digging was done. He liked Lu Zihan's flattery, but Lu Zihan's brother and uncle were part of this defection. Lu Zihan's loyalty didn't guarantee the others would remain silent. To be safe, he had to strike first. Almost done. Just pack the dirt, Lu Zihan said, completely oblivious. He worshipped Lu Chenyi, but he couldn't force the others to feel the same. He had no clue his cousin was about to murder him over a few casual comments. He stomped the dirt, grinning at Lu Chenyi. Cousin, use your Earth system ability to sink the ground a bit. That will make it foolproof. No one will notice. Lu Chenyi glanced at the pistol tucked into Lu Zihan's waist, a weapon he had personally gifted his cousin during a supply run in City G. Now it was a threat. Sure, let me try. Lu Chenyi smiled. Light pulsed in his palm. The ground collapsed instantly. However, the earth didn't cave under Lu Zihan's feet. It caved beneath the 4 men standing behind him. With lightning speed, Lu Chenyi whipped out his pistol, firing multiple rounds into a stunned Lu Zihan. Simultaneously, his metal ability flared, launching 4 iron spikes through the air toward the horrified group. It happened in the blink of an eye. Lu Chenyi was entirely confident that no one present had the power to counter his sudden strike. He closed his eyes, counting the seconds. Strangely, he didn't hear bodies hitting the mud. Instead, a chorus of furious roars exploded in his face. Lu Chenyi, you son of a bitch! You tried to kill us? You people! Lu Chenyi's handsome face distorted with absolute horror. He stammered, how are you still alive? What do you mean still alive? Is that how a human talks? Lu Qingqing's final shred of familial affection vanished. He grabbed a dazed Lu Convuong, screaming at the top of his lungs. You soulless brat! You heartless monster! You tried to murder your own flesh and blood. Lu Zihan snapped out of his shock, staring blankly at the bullets levitating a mere 2 inches from his chest. His eyes bulged with a chaotic mix of disbelief, fury, and heartbreak. His faith was completely shattered. He didn't even have the mental capacity to wonder why the bullets had magically frozen in midair before dropping into his hands completely harmlessly. It is all a misunderstanding, Lu Chenyi stammered, realizing his attack had failed. He immediately shifted his expression, his face transforming so quickly it could make your jaw drop. He acted as if he hadn't just tried to slaughter his entire family. Lu Qingqing's group clustered tightly together, facing Lu Chenyi across the newly buried weapons stash. Knowing Lu Chenyi's raw power, the men didn't dare rush him. They just stood their ground, hurling curses. Lu Chenyi was equally wary, suspecting they had awakened hidden superpowers he didn't know about. He put on a patient, strained smile, pretending the gunfire had nothing to do with him. If a bystander stumbled upon the scene, they would think a group of thugs was bullying a poor, innocent young man. Tang Yinyin was thoroughly amazed by the male lead's shameless face-shifting abilities. She knew Lu Chenyi had no moral boundaries, but this was a new low. System 21 offered a brief, satisfied commentary. The original plot is completely dead. The male and female leads have broken up. System 9678 turned into a massive anti-fan right before its tribunal, cursing Lu Chenyi out as the trashiest male lead it had ever managed. He couldn't even hold on to his own protagonist's luck aura. Tang Yinyin, honestly, she hadn't expected the favored son of heaven to fall into such a pathetic dilemma within a single month of the apocalypse. But she felt absolutely zero pity. She remembered exactly how Lu Chenyi had targeted her, insulted her family, and demeaned Nie Gen. She held grudges. Forgiveness was out of the question. Has 9,678 been sentenced yet? Tang Yinyin asked. 021 chirped. It will take some time. The trial just started. But don't worry, Yinyin. The presiding judge is System 33. It likes you a lot and will definitely secure plenty of bonuses for you. Tang Yinyin. System 033 was ridiculously busy, managing 60 to 70 worlds, supervising other systems, and now working as a judge. A true corporate slave. Nie Gen tapped the wireless earpiece resting against his ear. He muttered a single phrase. Move out. Right at that moment, Zhao Hu, Lin Xing, and a squad of burly men charged out from the surrounding woods, armed with their visual enhancement buff cards. The 7 or 8 muscular men easily slammed Lu Chenyi and Lu Zihan into the mud, pinning them flat. You were the ones messing with me? Lu Chenyi glared up fiercely from under Zhao Hu's heavy boot. I will give you one chance. Let me go right now. Zhao Hu burst into a loud laugh. Raiding a police station? Hoarding military weapons? Forming an illegal gang? Kidnapping women? Looting civilian property? Spreading dangerous rumors? And attempted murder? How many death sentences do you think you have earned? Stop barking. When did I do any of that? Where is your proof? Lu Chenyi's mental state collapsed entirely. Without evidence, you are just slandering me. The apocalypse is here. The supermarkets collapsed in the earthquake, and the food would just rot anyway. What is wrong with me taking abandoned supplies? Furthermore, countless people are displaced. I formed a mutual aid society to help everyone survive. What part of that is wrong? Lu Chenyi shouted with absolute righteousness, his face filled with sincere conviction. If I truly did something wrong today, it was burying a few guns I found. But it is the apocalypse. I want weapons to protect myself. Why is that forbidden? Who the hell do you think you are? Rage burned like a furnace inside his chest. This rebirth was a total humiliation. It wasn't satisfying at all compared to his previous life. In his past life, he had used his space storage to build a legendary reputation before his death. His relationship with Yishiren hadn't shattered, and the government had never been this efficient. Why? Where did it go wrong? Everything was supposed to be smooth, except for the sudden appearance of Nie Gen and Tang Yinyin constantly ruining his plans. Right, Tang Yinyin. Ever since he failed to steal the money from her house sale, his grand plans had derailed step by step. Yishiren had even lost her mind over her, awakening a completely useless charm ability instead. Unbelievable. He blamed everything on her. What a joke. He was completely blind to his own downfall. It was all Tang Yinyin's fault. Lu Chenyi was burning with pure regret. If he hadn't let Nie Gen carry her away on the streets back then, today would not be his downfall. That was his truth. Bitter. He knew it. Stop barking. Zhao Hu didn't care about his whining. He snatched a jade-white handcuff from the white hound to restrain the former favorite son of heaven. Suddenly Lu Chenyi thrashed like a wild beast. Thick black smoke erupted from his palms. However, the mist refused to solidify into a lethal shape. Huzi, look at this clown trying to use his awakened abilities. Zhao Sanba laughed from the sidelines, enjoying the circus. Zhao Hu sneered, pinning Lu Chenyi's arms roughly behind his back. He danced around with a smug grin. Come on, hit me. I am standing right here. Try it. Lu Chenyi went wild with rage. He forced his metal superpower over and over, but he couldn't form a single iron spike. The rest of his crew lay face down in the mud, pinned by Lin Xing's squad. Seeing Lu Chenyi's black mist fizzle out repeatedly, their feelings were incredibly messy. Satisfaction mixed with deep pity. I was blind to worship you as an overlord. Lu Zihan spat, facing his cousin. You are just absolute garbage. He had survived the murder attempt. Now he wanted revenge. Just you wait. Even if I get a firing squad, I am dragging you down with me. No evidence? Don't make me laugh. We kept receipts. Lu Chenyi's eyes turned blood red. His elegant facade broke completely into a barrage of vile curses. The noise was unbearable. Tang Yinyin didn't want to hear it. She spent a few system points to buy a mute combo, instantly silencing his mouth. Then she walked out from the trees, pulling Nie Gen along. The moment Lu Chenyi saw them, he looked like he had witnessed a ghost. He could only produce wet, pathetic choking sounds. He clawed at his own hands until they bled. Tang Yinyin watched his silent, trembling fury. She let out a long sigh. It was over. Finally. Boss, miss, we are taking these trash bags out first, Zhao Hu said, hauling Lu Chenyi up. Nie Gen twirled a lollipop between his long, pale fingers. His voice carried a dark undertone. Hand them over to Captain Yin first. Zhao Hu grinned knowingly. Understood. The boss was a jealous creature. Lu Chenyi was special, very similar to the supernatural items they usually contained. The boss would definitely handle the interrogation personally. Tang Yinyin noticed Nie Gen was remarkably calm today. No murderous jealousy. Excellent progress. Nie Gen caught her staring. His heart itched. He leaned down, his lips brushing her ear. Yinyin, what do you want for a wedding gift? Tang Yinyin blinked. She was genuinely surprised. During their wild grotto sessions, he had already gifted her several mountain properties and rare jewels. She thought that was the gift. She thought for a moment. I want you to stop being a brute for a whole year. Nie Gen's face turned completely black. Seeing his expression, she hesitated. Then 1 month? 2 weeks. Nie Gen's expression softened slightly. Iskar eyebrow twitched upward. Deal. Tang Yinyin's eyes lit up with pure joy. Are you serious, brother Nie Gen? No brute behavior for 15 whole days? No item-related torment? Unbelievable. Nie Gen nodded solemnly. Yes. Elated, she whipped out a pen and paper from her pocket to mention, scribbling furiously against a tree before shoving it into his hands. Husband, sign this. Nie Gen looked down at the document. It read, Official Terms and Regulations of Nie Gen's 15-day No-Brute Treaty. Nie Gen, the young couple stayed in the mountains for one more day to clean up the mess. By nightfall, Fu Xieyang arrived with a platoon of soldiers to exhume the buried contraband. Impressive. Look at all these pistols. How many police stations did they loot? Fu Xieyang shook a heavy crate of ammunition, loaded and ready. If this hit the black market, chaos would erupt. The base city was orderly, but the apocalypse was pushing everyone to the brink. Natural disasters struck back to back. No breathing room. Survival was a nightmare. During the recent tornado, many stubborn citizens who refused to evacuate died horribly. Others used the chaos to rob and murder, leaving bloodstains across the ruins. Worse, newly awakened abilities users were popping up everywhere. Many grew arrogant, treating ordinary citizens like trash. The world was fracturing. Xiao Feiyu stood by, his chest tightening. Because of his past prophetic dreams, the military kept hounding him for future predictions. But ever since the earthquake, his visions had completely vanished. The Special Dangerous Species Containment and Management Bureau issued a warning. Fu Xieyang muttered, An extreme cold wave is coming. It is scorching hot now, but the base is building underground shelters with floor heating to prevent a total wipeout. We are heading back, Leader Nie. The military convoy departed with the weapons. Tang Yinyin and Nie Gen spent one quiet night in the grotto. The grand villain kept his word. Aside from a punishingly long kiss that left her breathless, he didn't cross the line. The next morning, they returned to the Tang family home. Her parents had been sick with worry, and their safe return brought massive relief. Tang Yinyin stayed home for a week, catching up with Lu Lam and Zhao Zhaoqian. During the tornado, the girls had evacuated safely with the military. Now that the temperature had dropped slightly, Lu Lam's grandparents had found light work. Life was stabilizing. Zhao Zhaoqian's family, along with Uncle Lai's relatives, had also moved into the fortified base. We got in early, Zhao Zhaoqian shared over tea. Now, every survivor outside is begging to enter. Refugees are flooding in from City F. She leaned closer. They say our base has the fastest insider intel. Look at the military expansion. They are doubling the perimeter. Lu Lam laughed happily. If that is true, we are in the safest place on Earth. They chatted all afternoon. Tang Yinyin kept them for dinner, and they parted ways under the night sky. Nie Gen returned late, around 9 in the evening. Tang Yinyin had been sitting by the door, waiting. The moment he walked in, he greeted her parents briefly before dragging her straight into the bedroom. He held her hand, his eyes sparkling with mysterious mischief. I got you a treasure. Tang Yinyin's curiosity piqued. What is it? Nie Gen smirked, reaching into his pocket. Under her intense gaze, he placed a literal handful of empty air onto her palm. Tang Yinyin. Right at that moment, her 21 electronic voice screamed in her brain. Holy shit, Yinyin, the grand villain stole the male lead's spiritual spring space storage for you. Tang Yinyin. The handful of air suddenly dissolved into her body. She checked her own spatial dimension. Her modest 60 square meter pocket dimension began inflating like a massive balloon, expanding past 200 square meters. Even the Lin Tuy letter 1EC1 and spring water pool, which had shrunk from heavy use, began expanding rapidly. The growth lasted for 10 suffocating minutes. Her B-grade space had ballooned into a massive 600 square meter domain, with a sprawling 50 square meter Lin Tuy letter 1EC1 and springwater lake at the center. The system panel flashed brightly. Congratulations! Your B-grade spiritual spring space has upgraded to A-grade. Congratulations! You have earned the S-grade title, Wife of the Ultimate Grand Villain. Tang Yinyin. The title left her entirely speechless. Meanwhile, the ultimate grand villain who had somehow violently ripped a pocket dimension out of the protagonist was leaning against the doorframe, narrowed eyes tracking her every move. He looked exactly like a giant puppy waiting for a reward. Tang Yinyin didn't hold back. She grabbed his collar, pulling the massive entity down to plant several loud, grateful kisses on his lips. Nie Gen's eyes darkened instantly. He locked his arms around her waist, deepening the kiss until she melted. With the impending cold wave looming, Tang Yinyin went on a shopping spree, hoarding winter clothes for her family. She then accompanied Nie Gen back to Lu family village to pack up the rest of their belongings. While Nie Gen and his crew were reinforcing the mountain walls, Tang Yinyin consulted 021 to find an auspicious time for a premium system lottery pull. The prize wheel had refreshed. The S-grade mecha remained the grand prize, but the upgradable A-grade items were what caught her eye. She targeted the A-grade space battleship, Tau Hurricane, and the A-grade large-scale protective barrier. If Earth became uninhabitable, humanity would have to flee into the cosmos just like the inhabitants of the Black Tower. Her world lacked that technology. The protective barrier was equally vital. It could block lower-level disasters completely. According to the original web novel, the fifth catastrophe was a devastating insect plague. If she could seal those toxic mutants outside a barrier, she could save millions from contamination. She checked the store price. 500,000 points. Out of reach. She washed her hands, took a deep breath, and hit the draw button. Rainbow lights flashed across her vision. Congratulations! You have drawn a special premium item, the Earthly Ascension Essence Pill. Description: an S-grade elixir crafted by the God of Joy. For women, enhances physique and grants peerless celestial beauty. For men, ensures infinite stamina, making him stand as unyielding as an immortal pine tree. Quantity: 120 pills. Warning: mortal hosts should dissolve 1 pill in Lin Tuy letter 1 EC1 and spring water per year. Longevity guaranteed. Tang Yinyin. She had risked her hard-earned points for an aphrodisiac tier longevity pill. 021 stayed silent for a moment before offering a weak comfort. Yinyin, maybe the system saw how badly Nie Gen treats you and wanted to help your stamina catch up. Tang Yinyin, no way out. She felt absolutely zero comfort. Drawing that item completely broke Tang Yinyin's heart. She let out a long sigh, staring at the small porcelain bottles materializing on the table. Each one was tiny, only at about 5 centimeters tall. She swept over 100 bottles into her pocket dimension, leaving just one out. She opened it. Inside lay a peach pink, heart-shaped pill. One sniff made her pores dilate completely. Her full body aches melted away. It felt exactly like soaking in a warm spring. The Earthly Ascension Essence Pill was incredibly potent. She dropped a single pill into a massive basin of Lin Tuy letter 1 EC1 and spring water to dissolve it. The pill dissolved slowly. It would take a day or two. While waiting, 021 delivered the final judgment for System 9678. System 033 had successfully extorted 20,000 system points from the tribunal as mental damages for her. 033 even left a friendly tip. I heard you drew the Earthly Ascension Essence Pill. Insane luck. Listen to me. Listed anonymously on the host forum. That item is a rare commodity. Countless hosts are hunting for it. The advice was solid. Tang Yinyin had 021 post the pills, immediately selling 2 for a whopping 6,000 system points. Combined with the tribunal payout, her balance hit exactly 80,000 points. Enough to fully heal Nie Gen's left leg. Furthermore, she struck a deal with a sci-fi host named The Entire Universe Knows I Secretly Love His Majesty. In exchange for 50 pills, she received an A-grade large-scale starlight protective barrier and 2 A-grade pocket barriers. The massive barrier could cover 500 square kilometers. Not huge, but big enough to shelter millions of people during an emergency. The pocket version covered only 500 square meters. However, it was completely portable and immune to physical damage. Perfect for wilderness survival. Tang Yinyin was thrilled. She claimed 1 pocket barrier for herself and set the other aside for Nie Gen. She knew the grand villain was an absolute overlord. Restoring his leg required 800,000 points, so a barrier was minor to him. But extra protection never hurt. The large-scale barrier system was massive and required installation. After receiving his gift, Nie Gen kissed her deeply twice. He had no intention of making the tech public. Instead, he anchored the barrier's core directly inside their home, adjusting the radius to cover only the base city. His excuse was simple. Yuzi and the boys won't mix well inside the official base. Tang Yinyin, just admit you hate living in the city. Thanks to the dual barriers, they didn't need to relocate. Tang Yinyin retrieved their belongings from her pocket dimension, prepping thick velvet blankets. The cold wave was creeping in. The official forecast gave them 1 more day, but white snowflakes were already drifting through the mountain crevices. Tang Yinyin visited the base city one last time. She gifted Mother Tang 2 spatial rings packed with Lin Tuy letter 1 EC1 and spring water and essential supplies, warning her to use them discreetly. Nie Gen's leg required over 10 days to regrow. The transformation couldn't happen inside the city, so they headed back to their mountain cave. By the time they returned, Zhao Hu's crew had already prepped their winter gear. They built a small wooden cabin far down the ridge. Their reasoning? Living too close to the boss and sister-in-law is inconvenient. Tang Yinyin watched their smirking faces. She whispered to 021, "Are Zhao Hu and the others non-human entities too?" It was an easy guess. They belonged to the Special Dangerous Species Containment and Management Bureau. If the boss was a monster, the lackeys likely were too. 021 replied instantly, "Yes, Yinyin." Tang Yinyin. She hesitated. "So Zhao Hu is a tiger, Xiao Sambao is a leopard, and Lin Xing is a bear?" 021 chirped, "Exactly." Tang Yinyin. Those names were literal. She thought they were just rustic nicknames. She recalled the gifts the crew had given her. Matching the names to the animals, her guesses were 90% accurate. But what on earth was Nie Gen? She couldn't figure it out. Even when they reached the cave, the question haunted her. Nie Gen went out to forage for food. Bored at home, Tang Yinyin noticed the earthly ascension pill had fully dissolved into the spring water. She funneled the liquid into 20 distinct water bottles, planning to use it as a stamina buff whenever Nie Gen bullied her. She had made too much. 20 bottles weren't enough. 021, "Do you think Nie Gen is a genetic mutant?" She gossiped while capping a bottle. 9 tails meant a 9-tailed fox. But why did he have horns? Remembering the agonizing memory of being locked to him on the mahogany swing, her lips twitched. Sigh. Why am I trying to guess? He is completely non-human anyway. Yinyin. A deep, gravelly voice echoed right behind her. Tang Yinyin spun around in a panic. "Brother Nie Gen, you are back." She had spoken softly. He couldn't have heard, right? She was terrified, forgetting she was still holding a half-filled bottle. Nie Gen glanced at her, catching a sweet, intoxicating aroma in the air. He raised an eyebrow. "What smells so good?" Tang Yinyin stammered, "Nothing." Nie Gen let out a low grunt. He reached out with his long arm, snatched the half-filled bottle from her hand, and chugged it dry. Tang Yinyin's heart stopped. "Wait." Nie Gen let out a husky laugh, wiping his thumb across his lips. "What, do you find me dirty?" Tang Yinyin. She desperately wanted to explain, but the words caught in her throat. Before she could speak, a powerful arm scooped her by the waist. "Is hot." Chaotic breath scorched her ear. Tang Yinyin knew she was doomed. Her body turned to jelly. Nie Gen pinned her into the corner, his knee forcing her thighs apart. He smirked, his voice dripping with lazy malice. "When did you find out I wasn't human?" Tang Yinyin. He heard everything. Nie Gen's handsome face flushed red at a visible speed. A wild, Takai energy flared between his brows, masked with a hint of desperate madness as if he feared she would run away now that his secret was out. Tang Yinyin sighed internally. Her waist was already aching. With flushed cheeks, she softened her voice. "Husband, I won't leave just because you're non-human. I actually like it. Can we eat dinner first?" Nie Gen froze. His thumb caressed her soft lips, his dark eyes searching hers for any trace of fear or disgust. Finding none, the beast finally calmed down. Frustrated by his own wild urges, he yanked his collar open, exposing sweat-glistened muscles. He pulled her tight against his chest, suppressing the primal hunger clawing at his mind. His grip was painfully tight, but knowing he had just ingested a dissolved ascension pill, she silently endured the squeeze. He carried her to the table. He had brought back grilled fish, fresh vegetables, and barbecued meat. The food actually looked decent this time. He must have practiced multiple times before bringing it to her. His clothes reeked of charcoal and roasted meat. Sitting on his lap was like sitting on a solid boulder. His muscles were rigid. Uncomfortable, she tried to shift her weight. Instantly, Nie Gen's voice growled in her ear. "You know I'm a beast, yet you dare seduce me like this? Do you want to die?" Tang Yinyin. She froze, meekly chewing her barbecue. The meat tasted decent, not a delicacy, but compared to the ravenous monster holding her, it was a feast. She needed to eat her fill now. She didn't want to rely on him feeding her sugar water through kisses again. Too embarrassing. Nie Gen watched her eat, his throat bobbing as her pink tongue licked a smudge of sauce from her lips. He was starving. One side of him wanted to devour her, while the other feared his possessiveness would scare her away. He swallowed a massive chunk of meat, but the internal fire only burned hotter. Beads of sweat rolled down his chest from the sheer effort of restraining himself. His breath turned shallow and rapid. He picked up a fish, meticulously removing every bone because he knew she hated them. The moment the fish was cleaned, his restraint snapped. Instead of feeding her, he spun her around on his lap, pinned her back, and slammed his mouth onto hers. Unexpectedly, he couldn't even wait for a single meal. He swept his tongue through her mouth, consuming the residual fruit juice and stealing her breath entirely. She was crushed against him, suffocating from the intensity. Through her tears, she saw him abandon his human disguise. A pair of silver-white triangular ears popped from his hair. With a sharp rip, his belt shattered. 9 massive, silver-white tails erupted behind him, exploding into a furry, chaotic mess. He carried her into the bedroom. A stray tail whipped backward, slamming the door shut and sliding the bolt into place. His tails occupied almost every inch of the room. They were gargantuan. And then 2 translucent dragon horns sprouted from his head, shimmering with an ambiguous light. Silvery, near-transparent scales emerged beneath his eyes. He pinned her into the mattress. The sheer size and number of his items made her jaw drop. Tang Yinyin completely broke down. She frantically whipped out the treaty he had signed. "You promised no brute behavior for 15 days. Nie Gen parted his thin lips, letting out a lazy, wicked chuckle. Nie Gen signed that contract. What does that have to do with Nie Gen? Tang Yinyin. He leaned lower, his scales scraping her cheek. And it certainly has nothing to do with my NH letter 1 ECB can. Tang Yinyin. No way out. Help.